All right. Hello, everyone. So not only was there the trouble of starting late, but we had the memory problems. I won't be loading up the. I won't be loading up the. Sorry. I won't be uploading the video from before, and obviously I did talk a bit about. Plans for the stream. I'll very briefly go over them, just sort of because there's a little bit in terms of kind of what the overall plan for the broadcast is, but we are going to be jumping into Phantom Brigade, and I'm actually going to be taking a second to just fire up the game right now. So yeah, sorry, it's been a bit of a wobbly start, and I need some water. Okay, so the overall plan is, excuse me, if I can, I would actually like to try and do some extra streams. But the drawback is that one of the reasons why some of the streams have started later is because I've been struggling to get timing handled, both in terms of just like simple things like bedtimes. I've been trying to catch a little bit of extra sleep where I can, sort of between finishing work and starting broadcasts. But generally, that's a little bit of a mess right now, and I kind of need to get that under control. Now, as far as where the stream is concerned, there's always going to be Brace Yourself on Wednesdays. If anything, there's going to be extra Brace Yourself days added, but please keep in mind that's a big if, and that's going to require a little bit more just free time outside of my other activities than what I can rely on. So it's something I want to do, but it's not something I'm able to sort of like say, Thursdays will now be an extra broadcast or whatever. Well, I see an icon. You should see it soon, hopefully. There we go. Early access, welcome to the Brigade. We're excited for you to experience Phantom Brigade in... actually, it looks like it's slower. Phantom Brigade and have your help in shaping its development during its early access period. During the course of development, some aspects of the game might feel rough, sparse, or buggy. Every month we'll release a major update which will include bug fixes, new features, and quality of life improvements for players. We appreciate your patience and feedback throughout this process as we work to deliver the most important features and fixes. From the main menu, check out our early access roadmap. There's no way I'm finishing this. To see what's coming next. Seizure Warning. A very small percentage of people may experience a seizure when exposed to certain visual images, including flashing lights or visual patterns. These seizures may have a variety of symptoms, including lightheadedness, altered vision, eye or face twitching, jerking or shaking of arms or legs, disorientation, confusion, or momentary loss of awareness. Immediately stop playing and consult a doctor if you experience any of these symptoms. If you or any of your relatives have a history of seizures or epilepsy, it is recommended that you consult a doctor before playing. It feels like this is a new music track, incidentally. All right. A wonderful opening menu as always. But yeah, so... or maybe it's just a different version of the introductory, because I definitely remember this part. Yeah, it feels like there was a small change to this. Or maybe it's just been a while since I've heard the opening menu music. But yeah, so if anything, Brace Yourself will be getting more days, but it's just because I really want to get to a point where I'm covering Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade in parallel. Because it means that I'll be making more progress in those games. It also means we'll be seeing endings more often. But in terms of the Free Friday, I've got Out There, Songs of Conquest, and that Untitled game, which somebody kindly gave me a key for, and I really need to get on top of. So that's 3 games for one day, given that Old World is also sort of a pillar for Monday. So we'll see where we can get it. But just maybe a heads up that I'm going to be struggling for a little while to make all of the times balance out. Now, I love the music. We're going to turn that off for a second so that we can take a look at some patch notes. And as is tradition, we will watch the video ahead of time.
Hey Brigadiers, This is Bahar, assistant producer on Phantom Brigade. This video will cover our 19th update, Ready for Replay, which is introducing the long-awaited feature, Combat Replay, as well as some other big announcements. Let's dive in. You can now review the events of your previous turn by pressing the replay button next to the timeline. You can watch the action on repeat at different speeds or hover over the timeline and scrub to any point in the turn. We can't wait to see all of your best plays. The replay feature, along with lots of various fixes, will arrive for all players on Tactical Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. But that's not all. We will be launching a 2-week-long playtest on Steam soon after the update goes live. Those who are interested in participating can sign up via Phantom Brigade's Steam page on a first-come, first-served basis. If you don't manage to grab a spot this time around, don't worry. We'll be doing more rounds of playtests for future updates. In order to give us time to incorporate the playtest feedback and implement our upcoming big, game-changing features, you can expect the next update to come in August, which will bring with it a whole new pilot system. See you on the battlefield!
That's interesting. So that means that July, we're going to be skipping over July's update. That will probably have some implications for Titan, actually, but I'm not entirely sure people will be upset by that. So I'm going to need to think a little bit about how I'm going to work this all out. But yeah, I know a number of you have been wondering where... So I can tell you that the intent, so unless this has changed, the actual intention behind the Steam release is to make that the 1.0 release, Gear Joe. So essentially, I suspect like the biggest thing is just wait for this game to get its release announcement, which incidentally just happened with Industries of Titan. So these games are getting releases, and there's some... As far as I can tell, Brace Yourself actually has kind of a clear idea about when they want to release this thing. But I also think that they know the trade-offs in terms of announcing that ahead of time. So yeah, I definitely know people are looking forward for the Steam release. But I was actually going to say, because I know this game in particular, it feels like there are a lot of people hotly awaiting that Steam release. Really strongly recommend that you all check out that Steam page for the beta access, because obviously, you're all the people who Brace Yourself wants to buy the game. If it's in good shape for release, that's going to mean there's more people happy about it. So. Yeah, that's interesting. Also, I believe that is the first time Bahar has done a update. I also believe that well, I don't know why you'd say I'll believe it when I see it, because like Brace Yourself have been pretty clear in terms of their plans for Phantom Brigade. It's also the fact that they have already put one of their other Epic exclusives on Steam. So I'm not really sure what other evidence you need. I mean, obviously it's also not my job to persuade you otherwise. Like, you've been pretty clear that you're only going to buy the game on Steam. And so, if it's not on Steam, there's no discussion to be had. And if it winds up on Steam, there's no convincing to be done. But of all the people, who I'd be skeptical of, I'd probably put Brace Yourself at the bottom of that list, because I think they're one of the few that you could actually say has a track record of, having multiple Epic releases, and of course one of them already coming out on Steam. In fact, when they put Industries of Titan, which is still in early access, they had a giveaway. They were giving away $100 Steam cards. So they definitely seemed to go in with a big splash when it came to Steam. So, anyways, I also, it's funny to mention, I think Bahar might be Soggy Newspaper, and I keep misattributing that handle to Lulu, the writer. I believe I always get those two mixed up. I also might have it wrong in terms of who that is. But anyways, it's always nice to see more It's always nice to see more it's nice to see more brace yourself talent on the updates. All right, patch highlights: state of replay, single turn replay is here, and getting crafty, changes to the workshop and equipment perks, and more. Phantom Brigade is in early access, which means we are actively updating and adding new content based on our roadmap and your wonderful feedback. We will be skipping July's update in preparation for the big changes to the pilot system. You can expect to see the next Tactical Tuesday update on August the 16th, 2022 at 11 a.m. PST. See the full patch notes below. So again, I've always gone for the game which has the more recent update, which would imply that there's a month of Industries of Titan. It may be that that's something that people would like to see. I'm curious if that is the case. But what I might do is I might carve out a couple of extra days for Phantom Brigade just to, just so we don't completely forget how to work it. Or maybe we'll just have a day dedicated to... Well, I guess I can't watch replays because it's only after the action. Anyways, we'll sort it all out. As always, the robot arm is changed due to community feedback. Replay is here. We've added a single turn replay to battles. You can play back the entire previous turn from start to finish, or you can scrub through the turn and replay from any point during the turn you want. 3 different replay modes. Single replay, watch the turn back once, and then it stops once it ends. Looping replay, the replay will jump back to the start and play again once it ends. And mirror replay, the turn will play in reverse once it ends and forward once it reaches the start again. Changes: bug reporter. We have changed the key command to open and close the bug reporter to Alt-B. And I actually, it took me a very long time to learn that there was even an in-game bug reporter. So this may be news to you that there is an in-game bug reporter, and I'm really bad at filling them out, but I also don't know if my bug reports are all that helpful in the first place. Oh, cool. I got paid for a stream that I did on Steam, and half of that money went straight into some textbooks. Princeton University Press has got a 50% off deal going right now, so if you want to load up. I also suspect that there's like one person in chat who might be interested in that, but actually process that order quick. They're on their way. Sorry, I shouldn't be checking my email. Simplified workshop. Remove the workshop charges. So now you only need supplies and components to build them now. You still need to discover specific projects during your campaign, though, and no more negative equipment perks. We've removed negative equipment perks from all equipment in the game. Positive equipment perks are still present. Perk names were also changed in order to be less confusing in some cases. Actually, I'm interested in this idea. I can see why they do it. I mean, I can see to a certain extent, just like mathematically, you could implement the same system and not have, it's actually possible that they could, I don't know, I don't think this is what they did, but just like you could do the exact same system, and just what you do is everything that used to have the negatives is now the base gear. And then, of course, all the other ones get bonuses on them. I suspect probably what this might indicate is that people were always trashing gear with negatives on it. And certainly that was the case for me. And so I think in the end, what it means is that there was just more stuff to sift through. And because they've limited the amount of equipment that you'll be picking up at any given time, there's really not a lot of situations in which you will... you'll hang on to the worst gear. I suppose had they made it... So I guess one situation I would have thought is that if there's something like really, really good, like something either that I was trying to get into the squad, or, something that in one trait was really above average, but it kind of came at this other cost, right? Maybe ridiculously high damage, but there's an even wider spread than what there normally would be. I could sort of see a trade-off like that. But I have a feeling that what was happening with the negative perks was just that it would sort of feel like, you put in all that effort and then you're left with a few options where it's like, okay, well, I would never put this on my mech anyway because my mech doesn't have a negative. Like, why would I willingly drag this thing down? So I think this makes some sense. And again, I'm not sure what perk names they're referring to, but hopefully that will be apparent when we load it up. Fixes. Fix being able to place a dash into the next turn. Oh, interesting. I think I know what that may mean, but we'll see it in the moment. Fix the workshop not working after unlocking upgrades that add blueprints. Fixed the assault rifle obtained from the mountain base being weaker than the starting AR. Fixed exhausted pilots not showing a warning. Fixed the primary double hand weapons not switching correctly from a secondary melee weapon. Fixed convoys being able to move beyond the map boundaries when fleeing the brigade. Fixed some UI elements carrying into the title screen when exiting from the inventory screen. Fixed the horizontal scroll bar in the update screen not being able to scroll all the way left. Fixed battles that liberate provinces not letting you salvage anything. Fixed being able to resume time from the pause screen. Multiple landscape changes in maps to fix impassable spots and misplaced collision. Fixed primary weapons being temporarily sheathed during the landing animation. Fixed weapons switching before a dash. There's a lot of fixes this time around. Fixed weapons switching before a dash when there is an attack command after the dash. Fixed holograms being positioned incorrectly during waits between movement commands. Audience favorite or audience request. Fix the meteorite location sometimes appearing underground during the meteor crash site scenario. I don't believe we've run into that yet. Fix the vision detection range not working when decoy drones are active. I believe we've not used a decoy drone yet, so we wouldn't have run into that. Fixed melee weapons detaching from the mech model when a unit crashes while running. Fixed unit holograms showing the running posture during dashes. Fixed reputation rewards not being displayed in the post-battle screen. Fixed mechs crumpling to the ground if they collide with another unit while landing. Fixed the updates window appearing over the projects list when you load a file saved in the workshop. Fixed being able to move the base while choosing to rest and resupply or recruit pilots. Fix the maximized storage upgrade being impossible to unlock because of the component cap. Fix some animation issues with melee weapons. Fixed AI units not leveraging the heat dissipation in rain. Oh, interesting. Fixed multiple typos, general performance optimizations. Fixed Nox medium parts not being added to the inventory after being built in the workshop. Fixed maps incorrectly allowing the destruction of critical surfaces. Fixed units T-posing during the map fly-through at the start of the battle. Fixed the first enemy mech in the opening cutscene having the wrong weapon. Fixed VFX being missing on landing units. Fixed not being able to use consumable overworld items unless you have the upgrade unlocked. Fixed the province hope value still being displayed in the province box info. And fixed ejected pilots staying in the squad before rescuing them. I should read the full list of known issues at some point, but there was one other thing that I wanted to point out, which is the careers section. So I've mentioned every once in a while that so Brace Yourself is hiring, and they've been hiring. I think there's probably been about 2 or 3. Hey, that's Titan. I like highlighting this, so I'll just draw your attention. So first of all, this is the easily one of the major perks of Brace Yourself. But I just wanted to point out that they are looking right now for a senior video producer, a senior producer, director of production, game design intern, and game design director. So some of these are experienced roles, and I don't necessarily know a lot of your backgrounds. But as you can see, there is at least one junior role. And as it happens, the intern, I believe the intern job is specifically for Phantom Brigade. I think the other ones aren't specifically attached to I don't think they're specifically attached to the to a particular project. I mean, you can click and look at these. So obviously the one thing that I don't intend to do, I don't intend people to recommend spamming, the Brace Yourself job openings. It's somebody has to go through these things, and I'm assuming they want as efficient of a search as possible. But of course, one of the ways you get an efficient search is if you get the broadest range of candidates who are sort of suitable for the role. And some of you, I do know, have these sets of skills, and some of you do want to go into gaming. And I definitely think that Brace Yourself is an interesting company. I've had the great pleasure of getting a chance to meet some of them, and also just my interactions with them online have always been incredibly pleasant. So, and it is worth remembering that there's a couple of major figures. So I'd point out here, Antoine, the art director for Industries of Titan. I believe Industries of Titan is his very first game. And so it is an environment. Of course, Jared J also was a community manager intern and is now working on Card Shark. So there are a few different people who either they've had sort of their first experience or they've had formative experience at Brace Yourself, and they have been able to grow in those roles. So if that sounds like something for you, I say this as somebody who actually applied to something that I had sort of I thought a very slim shot of getting into, and I got a very enthusiastic yes as a response, and that will involve a little bit of money and hopefully something that you all enjoy as a result. So it seemed like a good chance to maybe just remind some people. I think at least one person would qualify as a senior video producer unless they've taken a very big shift in their life. And then, and with that in mind, like every time I've looked at this, there've been at least a couple of people I know who are like, they'd probably be a good fit for this. I don't know if they're looking, but rather than just individually mention it, because I've already individually mentioned it to a couple of people, I know there's a few of you who are thinking about this sort of stuff. And if Brace Yourself has the best people working for them, I get the best games to play. So I would encourage you, if you think you're a good fit, if it sounds like something that you can do well, I would encourage you to apply. Unless they forgot to update the website, in which case I apologize. All right, let's load up and let's see if we can remember where. Let's see if we can remember where we were. That's right, we started the revolution. All right, cool. So memory serves, I was trying to work out the priorities. It might be as simple as just going to the battle site. For some reason, I felt like the camp was something that we wanted to go to reasonably quickly. But I think what we'll do is we'll hit the battle site first, just because that's timed. Farm, camp, and then if we get a chance to take the patrol, we can. But I have the feeling the patrol is probably going to force the fight for us. So the team will sort of repair while we're on our way. And in this case, once the repairs are done, we can afford to speed up. And then we can... Well, we could theoretically go into stealth, but we don't need to because it's a battle site. Everybody already knows the enemies in the area. All right. The site of an ongoing battle between the invasion forces and the Home Guard. Our allies can only sustain a direct confrontation for a limited time, but we can flank the commanders coordinating the enemy efforts and turn the tide in our favor. Home Guard units will be present on the field to assist. Troublemakers. Your contact in the Home Army says that while the Home Army is busy with a battalion elsewhere, they don't have enough mechs on the ground to deal with this pesky fire team. We're on top of them now, an engineer shouts from the front of the base. What do you want to do, boss? A pilot asks. We're ready to fight if you are. Suit up. So at some point I want to build another mech. Alright. What are we looking at here? So 4 to the side, 4 in front of us, 2 off to the side. I think probably the approach I would take would be to, like I normally do, sort of move forward, hit them hard here, and then turn to the left. It also looks like we're going to have some cover in between here as well. So there's always the worry that one of these things are going to be carrying a sniper rifle, but I think we should be okay. This is actually listed as very hard. It's kind of funny because we count as level 3.9, whereas this is a level 4 enemy, so I'm perhaps a touch surprised that it says this is going to be difficult. Ooh, we also get rain. But let's take a minute here and see. Oh, you can hear the rain. I don't see it though. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's because everything's moving so slow. So there is rain. I'm just looking for the movement. Let's just take a quick second here and see if there are any improvements I can make mech-wise. Okay, so in both of these cases, I'd be giving up integrity. The changes in power and all of that would come from the core, so I'm not too worried there. Is the Elbrus arm better? A little bit worse on heat dissipation. Now, the funny thing here would be the cost on heat dissipation isn't the end of the world, because I... Like for this map, because it's raining, I think I'm gonna skip it for now. And then the Astra doesn't have quite the same punch. So I think I'm gonna stick with the burst for now. Let's see if we can do better with some of our other mechs though. So now the Lance is intended to be a bit more of a bruiser, so the idea of getting some more integrity on this one is appealing. So currently this thing's rocking an overdrive core versus a standard, so I'm going to put a standard in here just for kind of an apples to apples comparison. Yeah, so we lose a little bit of mass. That is worth considering in terms of the speed. But we'll get some of that back when we put the overdrive core back. Right arm now. Okay, the Elbrus isn't an improvement, and the right slot, unless we've got a better shotgun, I don't think we're going to worry about that. So that was pretty straightforward. Now, I suppose the other question would be... Oh, that's right, I remember now. So I was like, why doesn't it have that big, beautiful shield? And it's because the stance actually wound up working a bit better than the Svalin that I was working with. Okay, so the Bull is my machine gunner. So this currently is using a launch core. I'm going to switch in an overdrive, again, just for comparisons. Oh. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to slightly shift things around, though. I think that's how I had this configured before. And then right now this is working with a range sensor, which is useless for a shield. So I don't want the heatsink because that's going to drain power. Capacitor is probably the most sensible. Alternatively, the passive heatsink's not bad because of the heat dissipation, but I think in this case I actually just want the capacity for heat. Okay, and then... well, this is just a... So other than the sensor, this is a pretty significant improvement. So we could give it a heat... Well... I'll go back to the sensor, but we may change that. And I think I'm going to keep the machine gun. The damage... Yeah, the damage from the sniper rifle is tempting, but... And what I may do here, so I currently have sort of twin machine guns. So I may change up that lineup. Okay, there's actually a bit of thinking I need to do on this. So let's maybe see if I've got some obvious choices after I've switched some things out. So maybe the arm, depending on the heat dissipation. Right, this is the weird one where I gave it a melee weapon for no real reason. Okay. So I was thinking maybe this could turn into a marksman or something, but it seems like it doesn't quite deliver in terms of the... Oh, sorry, this already is a marksman. Why did I think it was a machine gunner? Okay, well that actually gives me a bit to think about then. So the priority here should be more on movement than anything. So with that in mind... This Nox upper can be tempting. Right now it's working a charge core. I don't have... Well, okay, I have one small standard here, so... So the catch is going to be the dissipation. Dissipation isn't as good. You know what? Maybe I'm just not that... Maybe I'm just not that thrilled with what the plating gives me. Let's just leave it be. I'm sure I kind of messed up some of my my plans here, but we're definitely turning quite monochrome. We used to have a very colorful brigade, but as we've picked up new items, we're starting to look a little more monochrome. I also wonder if the frozen rain is intentional or not, because the sound would suggest that it should be moving. And of course, the fact that the mechs are moving is one thing, but yeah, I don't know. Doesn't feel like the sort of thing I should submit a bug report for, but I suspect that's not intentional. Decelerating. Let's flank and finish them off. Okay, so I feel like I've done a very similar map recently. So one appeal would be if I could just get a machine gunner up on this hill and just drive fire right into the middle. So that's going to take half the turn. Okay, as cool as that seems, it's also out of the range. The other alternative is that I ignore the original strategy and I do actually focus on this little pocket to the side. So this guy's got a machine gun and a cannon. Remember, cannon is a long-range attack. So that is something I would possibly need to be concerned about. On the other hand, the group I was originally going to target, they've got a couple of mech weapons on the tanks. So they've got a shotgun and a tank with a machine gun's actually something to get a bit scared about. And then on the mech side of things, there's a machine gun and... Oh, wow, machine guns for everyone. Okay, well, that tells me a little bit about their position. So... As a... Hey, Immortal Validity, how you doing? I don't know if you got to hear the patch notes, but it sounds like Phantom Brigade is going to be skipping their usual update in July. They're going to be taking the feedback from their Steam beta test. And my usual deal has been to do the game with the most recent update, so that may mean that there's a little more... Industries of Titan in the future than what I've done so far. I'd like to get some Phantom Brigade done. Like, I'm not going to completely abandon the game, but my usual habit has been to follow through on whatever game has the more recent update. So I'm hoping that will be some good news for you. Now, I'm a little tempted to try something like this with the Sleipnir. because this is a machine gun that's going to be firing into an enemy tank. The only thing that doesn't 100% work for me is that I think the height difference is sufficient to protect that tank. Otherwise, I'd love to spoil its day. So if I run this, first thing I'm going to do is just kind of get the okay. I want to try and cover the Sleipnir before things go too wrong. That might work out for me a little bit. Yeah, so there's no way I'm really going to do anything useful. So what I was thinking was I could peek around the side of the hill and start targeting this unit. Now, the catch is that it's got a shield. And if I move, then this tank doesn't shoot into its ally anymore. So in this case, I actually think... Normally, I don't like having a unit pinned down like this. But in this case, the Sleipnir's doing a good job of just drawing fire away from the other units. And potentially, it's causing friendly fire. And of course, if I need, I can just run them around the side and flank. So the question is now, if the Sleipnir is making space, the next step is I need to take advantage of the opportunity with my other units. And the open question, of course, is whether or not I'm actually going to pull that off. So I think first thing I want to do is I refuse to believe... Oh, it's an autocannon. Okay, yeah, so I sort of bungled the... I bungled the move already. I don't have very high expectations for this, I'll be honest, but I thought for some reason... Okay, this is the main cannon. So this one I actually want to keep further back, and I'm going to get it to focus on enemy mechs. How does that work? Let's not leave that to chance. Let's just maybe find a slightly better location for them. Huh, it really is the tank. Well, I mean, that sort of suggests that the friendly fire I was thinking about with the Sleipnir would happen, but I still don't want to rely on that, so I'm fine with the tank being here. As long as it doesn't get targeted too much in subsequent turns, we should be fine. Now, this thing's got a shotgun, so I probably want to take it down somewhat early, and the best answer for that, honestly, is just to use my own shotgun on it. Yeah, that thing takes a lot of heat, so I think that's the only action that particular unit can do. And then the marksman rifle's in a little bit of a weird spot because it's a slow mover. It's actually going to be basically in the same place as the okay. Just shy of where it needed to be. Okay. Let me get a second. So again, sort of under targeting this leading tank, but I think I can live with it. This one's a little simpler to deal with. It's gonna... Like, I don't necessarily like it running into the next turn. Well, I don't have to make it run into the next turn. I suppose we could just... This really winds up doing the same thing, but it's a little bit less time spent on it. What I'm worried about here is... Oh, and looks like I'm causing a crash. Okay, clearly I wasn't paying attention. Nope, that really is the shotgunner that's causing the problem. It's not ideal, but... Yeah, it's a little bit of a mess of a turn, but... So the biggest thing I'm worried about here is the longer I spend firing this machine gun, the more I open myself up to whatever's coming on this side, and again, the cannon is a long-range weapon. I'm not as worried about this machine gun. 66 meters is not the worst. Is not the worst possible outcome, but yeah, let's run it and see how it goes, and we'll do it in full speed because we'll definitely replay this just to see how the new feature works. Wow. Are they here for the cargo? Security team, make sure they don't breach our defenses. Alright, so clearly... Oh, that was a... So it turns out we concussed that rather than blowing it up. So it looks like the game's going to give the state at the end of the turn for that that particular one. I don't know how... Oh, I get it now. So we could do mirror mode and... That's so interesting to see it backwards. So yeah, that was a ridiculously powerful hit. So yeah, now, I mean, the trouble now is going to be, do I want to see... It does actually... It's interesting the way they've done the replay, because I believe the slow motion that you do in the regular replay is actually slower than the replay slow motion. So you have some choices to make in terms of how you want everything to look. That is not a concern we'll deal with at the present moment. We'll maybe focus on something a little more pressing. Okay, so I'm not crazy about what this tank's doing right now. But they're being targeted. So maybe it actually makes sense for them to do this. Okay, so my original intention was actually to move the tank around the side here and target this mech, but as it happens, it's drawing fire from this mech, so as long as I stay behind the hill, I'm fine. Now, it's a little bit more of a dilemma in terms of what I do with the Sleipnir. So one thing I could do is just dash and sort of hope that I don't suffer too many consequences as far as the kind of the wrath of this machine gun tank is concerned. I've already taken damage, so I mean I do have the option of just sort of shrugging off whatever that tank does to me and sort of laugh and fire. It's a choice. I'm not sure it's a good choice, but maybe I'm willing to experiment. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about this, but I don't think... Like, it's not a full volley. The full volley will do 420 damage, which I think might be enough to take my torso. Nope. So it's not going to kill my unit. If it kills the legs, that's a problem. But again, there's just a small window in which that attack's actually going to be able to hit me. And I think, 2 rounds with a Sleipnir being taken out isn't quite ideal for me. So I want to try and make sure that I'm getting something done. Now, the fact of the matter is that we've got 2 sort of fixed positions that we're going to be fighting. So what I need to be focusing on now is crossing the battlefield and dealing with the enemy. Now, I think in this case, I'm going to say the shotgunner probably should move to flank the machine gun. And this just happens to be a good sort of, I think it's a good trade-off in terms of the 2 different types of attacks. Like, the machine gun doesn't necessarily work very well at close range. So this thing doesn't move that fast. It's able to deal some meaningful damage at a point where, actually this thing doesn't have a shield anyway, so... but yeah, I don't know, it's dealing damage on the right-hand side, which potentially disables its weapon. I don't exactly want to spend a turn or 2 trying to cross the ground. I figure these things are going to move in on their own. And so once we're done cleaning up this unit, we can focus on other matters. So the remaining question is, what can I do to get rid of this tank? And then how many forces can I redirect to deal with these 2? Now, the good news is that the tank and the machine gunner are both targeting the Sleipnir, it looks like. And so, as a oh, sorry, my apologies. They're targeting the autocannon tank. So that means that I free up my other units over here to deal with them. So I normally wouldn't want to do that, but so this is a risky choice just because I'm committing myself to an attack. The likely reply is going to be that this machine gunner is going to target this unit. But knowing that, it lets me position for the reply. Actually, you know what? Maybe I don't want to worry about that. Maybe I just want to focus on lobbing shells at the... Sorry, Home Guard, you're going to have to take some heat. So basically what I want to do here is I want to prep the squad for the next turn, the reply. And if I can get an early attack in on some enemy mechs, so much the better. I don't like that percentage. What's going on there? It's a really big drop-off. I think I'm going to risk it in favor of kind of doing 2 batches of these attacks, but this may come back to bite me. So yeah, the only thing I would kind of want to do differently is I am not quite spending enough effort to disabling this machine gunner, and I don't think the attacks that I'm doing are enough to take these two out. I think the problem is that I thought I was going to have this tank free, and instead I'm actually using the tank to take out the machine gun. Now I still think this is the right call, but it does mean in the following turn I think I'm going to have some consequences that I need to deal with. Yeah, that's what slow motion is right now, 0.6. So that wasn't quite as exciting as I thought it would be. I'll take a quick look at the replay and just see if anything more creative happened on this side. Yeah, this thing is actually pretty much intact. So I mean, a little damage on the Sleipnir, nothing too catastrophic. Yeah, I guess the question is who's going on the attack? Okay, so first things first, I think we want to fire the shotgun as early as we can. Looks like I've got enough time to put up my shield though, so we're just going to stand and wait. Now, it's going to take me a while before I'm able to fire that shotgun again, so what I'm going to do is just sort of move around the edge. Oh. So that's basically going to block the machine gun attack. Now, the real question here is how much do I want to dedicate my Sleipnir to? So obviously this tank's taken a little bit of heat damage, so there's a limit in terms of when I'm actually going to be able to attack. And it's kind of hard to tell. I'm going to guess I'm going to hit the side of the mountain doing this. Maybe? Looks like I may actually still be able to deliver. So I suppose the next question is, alright, so they are focusing on the Sleipnir. So the other alternative for this unit is to target, the other tank. So if I do that, I guess the question is, so how soon can I actually fire? Okay, so they are sort of in the range. I don't think I want to run too hot though, so let's just leave it at that. Sort of as anticipated, there's going to be a reply as far as this mech is concerned. So we're actually just going to run straight to the side. Ooh. Yeah, there's no point in doing that actually, because I'm just gonna be standing and taking it. That's not very good for me though. So this thing can do 525 damage, and my center torso is 400. So one of the really critical things right now is just to have as much firepower focused on this unit as I can. Even though I'm running this unit incredibly hot, this is the thing that's potentially going to save this mech. So like this is probably one of the more high risk plays that I'm doing here, but I also want to see if it works. I'm probably overdoing it as far as this this unit's concerned, but clearly I do not want to leave this to chance. Okay, so it seems like this thing crashed because of the mech body, and arguably the most useful thing it can be doing right now is targeting the. Yeah, but that's a low chance to hit. So, second most useful thing it can do is target this mech. And then the remaining question is, again, what do we do about the Sleipnir? So I think I can kind of just stay pinned like this and still be able to target. Yeah, so we actually get quite a bit for free. And then I might need to move back a little bit. Ooh, but that's... Yeah, that gets a bit complicated in terms of targeting the... Yes, I mean, after that, I basically need to target using the sidearm, which I'm not crazy about, but I'm not going to write an angry email about it either. Okay, so clearly, clearly this is the one we want to see the end result on, so. All right, so didn't need to run hot like this after all. Okay, both of these got neutralized, so that's exactly what we wanted to see happen. It looks like I didn't plan this too well. I'm taking quite a bit of damage. And this thing's taken 93 damage in heat, it looks like. All right. So obviously I shouldn't, it's plain as day that this wasn't providing any cover. Probably shouldn't be relying too much on those lines. I will confess though, I'm a little surprised that this thing's still well, it's not standing, its legs got shot out from under it, but this should be a pretty straightforward cleanup. Yeah, so priority number one, we gotta get to safety. I'm not crazy about the fact that my my Sleipnir kind of seems to have been sidelined for the mission. Ooh, okay. Pretty straightforward to just lob a shotgun shell at the enemy here. The other question would just be, who do I want to dedicate to sort of which role? So I guess first question is, I think it's a little easier for me to just use the I don't like the angles on that at all. Maybe I should just take the aim penalty and fire. Yeah, at 52, that's not Like, I'm not jumping for joy at that, but definitely makes me feel better than... it makes me feel better than, like, moving forward, not... oh, actually, you know, even that angle doesn't work. Okay. Let's go back to reality and actually do this turn for real. Yeah, that's not going to work either, especially because my other tank's in the way. So once upon a time, it said something like this might work. Yeah, that's not happening. Is there a penalty if they hit you in the back or the butt? I assume it's all modeled like the mechs. Penalty for me or penalty for them? So this works a little bit differently from you know, other games that you might see. Also, hello, Irrepressible. So this works a little bit differently from how you might expect something like BattleTech to work. So, you know, a little bit like tanks. There's more armor in the front, because these things aren't exactly intended to be, you know, generally when you're thinking about a tank, you're not thinking about something that's going to be, have its back facing the enemy. Its kind of whole existence is for sort of moving forward aggressively, and providing sort of that cover and support. I mean, like the original, if I recall correctly, the original purpose of the tank was just to be able to sort of roll over barbed wire. So the you know, a lot of mech games tend to work along similar principles, which is that you have all of your armor and armament in the front, and then if someone is capable of flanking you, there is a large advantage to them simply because you are able to attack the weaker armor. This is definitely true if you play like a battlefield game. So if you put, you know, if you fire your anti-tank weapon and you hit it in the back, you're possibly taking that thing out in 1 or 2 hits. Whereas if you're taking it on in the front, not only are you in a much more dangerous position, but you are, you know, you're just simply going to have to do more damage. This game works a little bit more differently. So in this case, your damage location, there is location-based damage. So left arm, right arm, upper body, and lower body. But there isn't front and rear armor. The best you can really do is have a shield, which will have a certain range, and you can think of that as extra armor, but you also have sort of swervable torsos, so the shield will effectively give you protection from all directions as long as you point it in the right place. So with that in mind, the disadvantage for being hit from behind exists, but it's modeled differently in the game. So instead of having to, you know, worry about 8 different, you know, 8 different armor values, front and back for everything. Although I know that the way BattleTech does this is like armor counts the same for arms and legs. It's just the front and, sorry, it's just the torso that that has front and back armor. Mind you, most of the important stuff's in the torso, so it probably makes sense that you'd break that down anyway. But the way that it gets managed in Phantom Brigade is that if you attack someone from behind, you will do more concussive damage, so you potentially take out the pilot. So that's kind of the equivalent of doing a headshot in other mech games. There's no specific head targeting in this game. And then I believe, in addition to having more concussive damage, shots from behind are more likely to target the legs. Legs generally are the weaker armored areas, but not necessarily so. You could definitely build mechs with beefier legs. And if you take out the legs, then you're going to cause a crash and the mech will move slower. So it's a different system. It would be fair to say that there's a penalty for getting hit in the butt, as you put it. But I'd put it to you this way: it's maybe a little less obvious than some of the other mech games, because the other mech games do put quite a bit of effort in modeling the specifics of your mech construction, just in terms of like specific hit points everywhere and what hard point gets hit and whether or not that's going to cause ammo to explode. In the case of Phantom Brigade, it's fair to say that there is a lot of complex modeling going on still. Sorry, I'm saying modeling all over the place, but it's in this case I really mean it. Like, all of these individual bullets are simulated. Now, right now, they're just kind of going off into the distance. But had they been targeting some of these buildings, for instance, I don't think there were any strays that would be affecting this. But you will absolutely see sort of holes being burrowed through buildings. Buildings can collapse, and there's quite a bit of interesting sort of location-based damage and the strategies that come from that as a result. So in this case, the attention is just shifted a little bit from a lot of focus, potentially even undue focus, on the specific components of the individual mechs, and instead it's a little bit more on sort of simulating where the different targets go, and that's what provides those really satisfying interactions in terms of being able to cause friendly fire and such. And I think it's the right call, just because in the end, because this game gives you perfect knowledge of where the enemy is going to be, I think focusing on being able to manipulate the battle space to your advantage. Obviously, that is the purpose of the technology, and so the emphasis of the game is sort of pushed towards things that make that a little bit more interesting. Whereas a game like BattleTech, it's turn-based, so to a certain extent you have what feels like a similar situation. But of course, that one's a little bit more focused on making the decision based on what you think the enemy is going to do, and sort of see your plan play out. And part of seeing it play out is finding out whether or not your guesses about the enemy were correct. And at that point, you're going to be wanting to think a little bit more of what resources you have to deploy, and some of those resources might be your HP and whatnot. So that was probably more than you were counting for in terms of the answer, but hopefully that covers what you were interested in. Okay, so I don't need to worry too much about this mech. Really, what a lot of this is coming down to is just where do I want to direct my forces to wrap up the turn. So we do need to finish off the tank. Oop. I wanted to try and be clever, but didn't quite turn out that way. So I cannot believe I'm actually dedicating a unit to. All right. So this marksman can do some good things if I can just get them into the right spot. The right spot is the tricky part, though. So maybe I will reassign them to taking out this tank. Okay, so let's just get an idea. This thing cools down and then opens fire on the tank. The marksman cools down, opens fire on the other tank, the one that's causing me grief. Now, if I can move the Sleipnir out of the way, so much the better, but I think... yeah, I'm sort of stuck here. That's fine, they'll stay put. I need to figure out what I want to do with this tank. I think I'll just move him. Okay, it's not my most exciting turn, but... wow. Okay, but he's going to be ejecting, so let's try and keep the home guard safe. We'll move it back. We're just going to move everybody out, though. So this is just going to give us an opportunity for some scrap when the time comes. So I'll confess, there's a little more damage that I took here. Enemy is ejected, hold formation team, their defenses are weakening. That wasn't my eject. So yeah, I'll confess I took a little bit more damage on this than I was expecting, but otherwise that was a pretty good round for us. So my usual routine, if it's not clear, the game will The game gives you extra scrap for the more enemy units that get taken out. However, you will also have to pay more for items that are damaged. So the sort of the pixeled out, the less clean banner is indicating damaged equipment, and the clean banners are the ones that are undamaged. So it can be to your advantage to sort of stay and fight a lot of enemy mechs, but what your preference would be is to try and knock the pilots unconscious. Like, to a certain extent, if you want to maximize your scrap, one of the best weapons you could have would be like a bunch of machine guns with massive damage penalties, but really, really high concussive damage. In fact, you can almost imagine like these would be some modifications you could put on your weapons, and you just bring a squad of people who have just this relentless fire of kind of these concussive rounds that leave the enemy intact, but the pilot's unconscious. Because at that point, you would be getting the points for taking out the different units. So there's the base of 50, and then 2010, 2010, 2010. So that's all the mechs and tanks that we took out. So the total here is, we almost got 3 times as much scrap, it looks like, just because of the enemy units that we took out. So this is one of the reasons why you'll sometimes see me do these missions where I can like try and take the supplies, but I'll still stay around and fight. I'll still try and fight the enemy units. It's largely because of the salvage. And then, of course, taking out more enemy units also just means you'll have more variety of weapons. The drawback, of course, is that you have to pay your salvage costs. So generally, I like to go for blues first. So that's already taken 90 over 140. Now, if I go for the uncommon, as you can see, we're already pretty high up in terms of our costs. So, okay, well, I'm not going to use this tower shield. That's because this is a pure barrier shield, which is not quite my thing. But we're still basically 100 away. Well, here's what we'll do. We won't... I could use the rare component still, though. Let's maybe put the handgun down. I would like to try and take the machine gun, because I feel like that is an upgrade for us. Let's give up the arrow arms, I think. I don't dislike the arrows, I just noticed that they're a bit weak on the integrity side, so I'm probably not going to use them as an upgrade. I still have to get another 50 down in terms of scrapped. I do want to keep the machine gun, so that's... See, this has an excellent reactor, so being able to scrap this... Well, actually, if I scrap it, I probably don't get the components, though, so... Getting closer. Am I willing to give up the arm, though? Because I think I might actually be able to use this one. Makes me feel bad, but I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm not going to mess around to try and get that last 5. I think we'll just leave it on the battlefield. So this is, again, I don't want to spend too much time complaining about it. This is one of the reasons why I like the idea of being able to compare with what you have in your existing inventory, just because that would help me a little bit in terms of making those decisions. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, we're still doing repairs. Okay, that's a camp. It's actually quite a bit for me to mess around with, so I think I'm still going to focus on the farm. So now we're going to go stealth. And then we go quick. Alright. So this will probably be the hardest fight of the liberation that we do. I'm going to try and equip some of those new toys to begin with, and then, yeah, we'll see where it goes. How you doing, Captain Zergay? The base comes alive with the sound of boots crashing against the floor. In the hangar, an engineer shouts his instructions to the crew, and a pilot rushes to get changed. You keep your eyes trained on the battle console, settling yourself with a deep breath. Okay. Liberation. Approach an occupied civilian outpost. Eliminate all of the hostiles with a balanced team, taking care not to incur too many casualties. They're dug in like ticks. Bait the enemies to bring them out of cover, or use indirect fire weapons. So this is actually, I was meaning to bring this up earlier. That might also be relevant for this one, but that cluster of enemies at the far end with all the machine guns. Excuse me. Because, so, I don't take advantage of quite as many, like, there's more variety in terms of tactics in Phantom Brigade than I necessarily take advantage of. So let's say that was a really overwhelming enemy for me. One approach that I could take as well would be to bring more missile launcher units. And essentially, particularly the missiles with very large areas of effect. There's quite a bit of cover for me to hide behind in that previous map. So one of the other approaches I could have taken towards those machine gunners would have been to sit back, fire as many missiles as possible, because that kind of puts the machine gunners in an impossible position. Either they need to move out of their kind of safety spot to come and flush me out, at which point I can just sort of duck around the corner and pull the same trick again. Or if I've got, you know, a team that's not completely focused on missiles, I just need to make sure that there's a couple of better close range mechs in place to be able to sort of reply when they, you know, when they do show up. So it does make things tricky for them to manage. So I don't really have that many launchers, and I'm not necessarily going to change the composition that much. The marksmen seem to be doing some pretty good work, so I'm going to keep the Ray that way. I don't know about the sidearm. I may change my mind about that, but the bigger question I actually have right now is about the lance, because I really feel like the shotgun is not pulling its weight, and there may be more interesting things that I can do with the close range mech. We'll figure it out, but that's actually the one that I have maybe a few more questions about. But taking a look at this battlefield, so there's structures in the way. Again, a large force here. There's a couple off to the side. Our attention will probably be directed here, but a lot of this is going to depend in terms of what the cover looks like, and more importantly, what the cover looks like for my unit. So if we have a big open field between sort of our deployment and where the mechs are, we're actually probably going to wind up going around the side like this, just so that we don't wind up facing them head on. We're not strong enough. The lances may be strong enough to be able to handle that, but everybody else is just not in a position to be able to do a head-on engagement like that. So, as always, we'll see if we can get some improvements in here. So, medium Elbrus. There's always the worry that we're factoring in... Okay, so if I give this thing a heat core... Sorry, I already have a heat core. Overdrive. Okay, worse heat dissipation, but better power, mass, and barrier generation. So I'll go faster and I will have higher integrity. I think I'm okay switching this out, and then we'll give it the heat core again. Or a heat core again. An improved regenerator. I could give it hollowed plating. I should have thought of that as well. We don't really need the extra speed though, so maybe we'll hold off on the hollow plating. Why did I go for heat? Increase damage output by increasing heat dissipation. I think I'll keep it this way for now. I need better defensive subsystems for sure. Right arm. So you'd lose some power. Better heat dissipation though. Oh, because of the passive heat sink. So the only thing that I'm a little worried about here is that we do actually have a pretty good reactor in this arm. So let's see what this does to my speed. Yeah, still at 20. I feel like we could do better, but I am willing to live with this. And then for the right slot, yeah, we're not switching to a machine gun. Okay, so the rest of it now, I'm actually going to slightly change the order. So I'm going to, for the ray, I definitely feel like heat capacity is a... So speed and heat capacity are the two things I want to focus on for the ray. So at the moment we have a charge core, which I believe is the largest heat capacity I can be running with. So one possible trade-off I have is just to change the core to something that's not a charge. So I'm going to use an overdrive for comparison. So that Elbrus body, not so good on the heat dissipation, but I like everything else about it. So we'll throw the Elbrus on, we'll make sure that we give it a charge core. So now we're up to 15 in the speed. Should have taken a look at the thrusters. So hot rod optimized for high performance with high heat output as a consequence. There is something tempting about the hot rod, but let's see if we can pull back a little. So the hollowed is what makes this so effective weight-wise, so I don't want to mess with that. So there's a bunch of different arms that have just opened up now, so let's just take a second and see... Okay, so right now I'm rocking this Nox arm. So one thing I want to focus on. So this is a great example here, right? So we can put this Elbrus arm on. So that's going to get me a... Well, the range sensor doesn't mean a whole lot to me. But is this the game where you can see how your opponent is planning to act depending on what you... Yes, this is that game, Captain Zerg. They actually just added replay. So it's probably not the replay people had in mind specifically when they were thinking of Phantom Brigade originally. And I believe they're still working on that. So basically, I know the replay that is most desirable is when the battle is done, to be able to see the entire thing play out at the end. That, I believe, is still forthcoming. But what they have introduced is the after the turn replay. And that's actually helpful to me because I may not replay every turn, but there have been a couple of times where I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened. That would have been nice to be able to kind of see what was going on. And so in terms of learning the game, I actually think the replay that they implemented is probably the one that is the most helpful in terms of sort of learning how the game works. And then obviously, for showing off, being able to show the full turn play out is clearly a really that's fun to do. I can see why I personally would want that, but it's maybe not directly related to the things that I find most interesting about Phantom Brigade. But yeah, so I think lowering the mass is not a bad call here. I'm a little worried that I'm giving up heat dissipation sort of twice over, but I think, I don't know, I can see some other ways we can improve that. So let's start by, right now it's an offensive subsystem. I don't really need range on a melee weapon. So I suppose the first thing I can do is chuck a passive heatsink in to make up for what I gave up originally. So left arm. Yeah, so this Nox arm gets kind of tempting because, yes, it's a heavier mass, but it has a reactor in it. So it may actually wind up making our mech faster. So let's just take a second here. We've got 1631 for speed right now. No, so this does actually make me slower. What was the... I don't remember the one that I had before. Let's start with this. 1594. Clearly that wasn't it. Well, hello, Yuhana and Momoko Hana. I'm doing very well. I hope you are as well. It's always nice to see you. I hope Kaita's doing well if you've heard from him. I've not heard from him recently. It's always a delight to see you too. I don't know if you've seen me play this, but this is Phantom Brigade, and it's got big mechs and jump packs, and it looks really cool. And I think this is a lot of fun. Less history on this one though, so I probably don't have as much I don't have that much education to give on this one. But very happy to see both of you. All right. So first things first, how do I get my speed back? Can I get my speed back? Probably not. So second best might be to at least go for the heat dissipation. Not live, but watched a VOD. Oh, very nice. That's good to hear. Okay, we're not going to mess with the reactor, I don't think. The gyro's kind of tempting because of the reduction in mass, but I believe the reactor... Yeah, reactor's still better. Okay, so unless we've got a better gun, there's not a lot to work with there. The blade isn't any better. So I think that is the ray spoken for. We'll get the bull next because that's the other level 4 mech. So we'll take the right slot. So the torrent machine gun is improved. So one drawback that it points out here is that the scatter is higher if we move. So this means that, notice when I use my machine guns with these things, I always keep the mech standing still, and I'm always careful to make sure that like there isn't an overlap between the firing and the moving. That's because of that scatter parameter just in the bottom right there. So otherwise, though, in terms of stats, it looks like the Torrent is it's the same but better, basically. So we'll chuck one of those on. Now, as for the rest of it, we'll just take a quick second and look at the hand-me-downs to see if there's anything interesting that comes up. And again, I'm particularly interested in the different cores that we have. So the most interesting ones to me are ones that maybe have the same mass and maybe slightly better integrity. Nothing there. Anything as far as the legs are concerned? Not a lot. There's something a little tempting about considering this lower body, so it's a lower integrity with some minor improvements as far as mass is concerned, but I'm not quite ready to go there yet. Yeah, I think the rest of this... Actually, for the left arm, hollowed plating might make sense. So the reason I put hollow plating on the left arm is that the left arm should already be protected by the shield. Now, if the shield's gone, I'm really done for, and if I'm not keeping my shield up, there could be problems there. But it's a trade-off I'm willing to make. Right arm, on the other hand, I wouldn't consider putting a weaker arm on just because it's not protected. No better shields as far as I can tell. Well, 300, 177. No, I do have a better shield, but it's a heavier shield. What does the hollow plate do? So you can't see it on the mech, but basically if so this particular arm here, the red colored one. So I'll maybe give you an example. Right now, the integrity rating, so the armor for the for this arm part is 186, and that's because this hollowed plating item will lower the armor that you get, but in exchange it lowers the mass. And when you lower the mass and keep your power the same, the speed of your mech goes up. So I'll take off the hollow plating just to give an example. I'll put regenerative back on. So remember, it was 186. So I put the regenerative plating on. It's 203, which is closer to the original amount, but my speed goes down to 1442. And generally what I do with my mechs is I tend to move them very fast so that I can get them into a good position. And so in this case, because this is the shield arm, which should already be protected by the shield, I'm okay giving up a little bit of armor because I just have something stronger to put in the way. And that's the logic. Now, that may not necessarily work. It may be that I'm in trouble. But we'll only be able to find out by trying it. So yeah, I do technically have a better shield that I can put on the Svalin, but I think it's a little too heavy. So if I've got 1638, we go back down to 1438. So in this case, I think I'm going to put the stance shield back. Okay, I think other than just seeing if there's any improvements for the lance, I think we're ready to go. Reposition fast to kill fast. Yeah, and that's actually how I do. So this game, there's definitely a tendency, and it can be very fun to have like very large, slow mechs that just sort of like barrel towards the enemies. And one thing you can do in this game is you can actually put your shield up and you can crash into other mechs. So if you're heavier, you will actually cause the other mech to crash because you just have the heavier force. And that can be a very satisfying way of playing. But I found for myself, I prefer to sort of move quickly and take advantage of a position. But obviously, that comes with its own cost. Like if I'm not careful, I get trapped and I'm in big trouble. So last thing I'm going to do here, the lance is my slowest moving mech. I'm not going to change it too much here, but I just want to see if there's anything more aligned with its priorities. So, for instance, there's a better version of the same core that it has. Any better legs? I've switched around some of my other components, so it's always nice to just double check if there's any new parts I can work with. This one's pretty unique though, so it's hard to it's hard to argue for some of these changes. The only thing I might want to change would be the weapon, but the catch here is like it's hard to figure out exactly where I want to go with this. So like the shotgun's okay. One thing that might be kind of interesting would be if I put the missile launcher on. Now that's not exactly a short range weapon. That's actually like the optimal range on this is 146, 257. So that's not really in line with this thing sort of rumbling towards the enemy slowly and doing its thing. I don't know. I might try it at some point, but for now, I mean, I could also try a melee weapon. But for the time being, let's keep with the shotgun, and if I'm not happy with its performance, maybe we'll experiment in future. Anyways, like I said, a lot of this is going to depend if there's cover in between the insertion point and this cluster of enemies. We'll move forward. If we don't have any cover, then we'll sort of move around the side, and we'll wind up taking these guys out first. Let's see how it turns out, though. May need to take a pause to refill my tea, by the way, but we'll do that after this battle. Oh, I like this song. Although I know it sometimes changes when the battle starts, so... Okay, so remember how I was talking about how we wanted cover? We'd have none. This is going to get interesting. Open fields. Okay, it's quite a few tanks. So let's... First thing we want to do, I think I want to just get an idea of what am I up against exactly. So we've got a machine gun, a shotgun, and an assault rifle on these three tanks. And then off to the side there is a tank with a marksman rifle. Huh. Okay. Now, as far as the mechs are concerned, we are up against something with a machine gun, a heavy launcher, an assault rifle. Looks like it's just 3 mechs. So under normal circumstances, this would be my better cover, but it looks like the enemy's actually fighting pretty aggressively for this. And then the other challenge is, I was originally saying that this might be our cover, that our original approach would be to sort of move sort of out and around like this. Well, this doesn't provide any cover at all. We're running up a hill, so really the only time we start getting in a defensible position is around here. So we're quite exposed in this area. Now, one of the things that I may want to try and do is take advantage of the fact that the enemy's so clustered up here that we might be able to cause some friendly fire. But the one thing I can't afford to have happen is just sort of stand and take a lot of damage. So one thing, given that this unit in particular is targeting the Sleipnir with its machine gun, I want to make sure that I'm kind of getting out of its optimal range as quickly as I can. So we'll start the Sleipnir by dashing. In fact, if I was really bold, I can dash in close. Yeah, see the catch there is the assault rifle is pretty versatile, so I think my best answer, honestly, is just to zip away as quickly as I can. Okay, that's too hot, so... And then as I run, basically just fire as much as I can on whatever target of opportunity. Cool. Covers for nerds. Hey, Takri, how you doing? If I saw correctly, you were playing Stardew Valley tonight? How did your stream go? I'm sorry I started late. Okay, so the marksman is in a bit of a funny spot. So they're being targeted by the missile, which means I'm going to want to dash at some point to deal with that threat. But that's not an immediate threat to me. The assault rifle, on the other hand, is. So one thing that's nice about this game, if it's not obvious, you can see these cones over my units. And in this particular case, that's giving you an idea of the optimal range. So they're targeting, in this case, the marksman's being targeted just at the edge of the optimal range, which would sort of minimize the damage. Now, one of the drawbacks is that my marksman's actually quite good at... short range attack. So I'm going to do something rather bold. But remember, this thing's got a melee weapon. So... in fact, let's see if I can take advantage of... yeah. So I'll get into range with my marksman, but I'm getting into range in a weird way, which is by like moving through the enemy by attacking them. Now, in an ideal situation, this sort of shotgunner unit would be the one that's really absorbing all of the damage. You tried to start Stardew, but you had issues, so you switched to Mario Kart for a bit, but got bored, and then finally got Stardew going, so... But I'm glad you had a good stream, despite the technical problems. I can't remember if you've ever seen me play Phantom Brigade, but this is a really fun game, and they just added a replay mode, so... Okay, so basically, I think I mentioned before that this Lance is one of the slower moving units. Now, in a perfect world, it would be, like I said, it would be absorbing all of the different damage, but just there's too much damage coming from too many different areas. So essentially what I want to do, this one I also sort of want in the middle of the fray. And in fact, I'm going to be a little bit of a jerk. But I want them in the middle of the fray, like, actively doing damage. So, like, what's happening here is that I'm walking up. This is just so that I can get into the middle of the enemy unit. So we're hitting this unit in the back with a shotgun. This tank is in the way, so I throw up my shield. You can sort of see the shadow of what my mech's about to do. Sorry, I should get the... So you can see the shield up, and it's going to crash into that tank, at which point it's going to stop attacking this unit with a machine gun. So that brings me to the unit with a machine gun. What can I get away with in time? Actually, one thing I could do is just jump on the roof and let her rip. Oh, thank you so much for the subscription. It's always nice to have a content creator subscribe to the channel, but gotta support your own stuff. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Particularly because I know, as I mentioned, I've really enjoyed being able to have you talk about, or sorry, to just have you in the comments for Cultist Simulator so much. Okay. So, I am putting this unit at risk by sort of ignoring the shotgun. I'm actually putting it at too much risk. So, okay, so I'm not opposed to using this mech this way. I'm just opposed to using it... Like, I want to clear the threat from the shotgun first. Okay, so I think here I'd be able to dash in. And then the last question is, like, what unit do I dislike the most? So this machine gunner is going to be causing me some trouble. This assault rifle's the most versatile. I do think, though, focusing on the machine gunner is probably the right call. Okay, so let's just get an idea. So we move around the edge, it fires the shotgun, doesn't really do a lot of damage to me. I move into... This is the more threatening area, but it gets hit by the... It gets hit by the shield pretty quickly. Now, I may have a little bit of friendly fire that happens here, but I've got my shield up, so I'm willing to tolerate that. And then for the rest of the turn, this machine gunner gets to fire into the back of the enemy unit here. Okay, so there's a lot going on. This is definitely going to be one where I make liberal use of the replay. But we will watch this in slow motion, and I think we'll probably focus when we can. I'm going to draw the attention to the one with the marksman rifle, but we are going to start with the escape from the Sleipnir. So here we go. Well, we can start a little speedier. Alright, so they're going to start opening up on this unit here. Melee's coming in. Oh my god, we took out the right arm and the tank! Okay, get to see the collision. And then this is us finishing it off with the machine gun there. Okay, we've got a lot to unpack on this turn, so this is why the replay mode exists. So maybe what we'll do is we'll take this from the perspective of each of the different mechs. It's so cinematic, like watching a Gundam war. I have to admit, I've never seen Gundam, but you're absolutely right. Like this is. So, like, I like this because this is a really good strategy game, but there are some incredibly talented, there are definitely some incredibly talented animators on this. So it is such a joy to just watch everything happen. Did they just add replay? Super exciting to finally have that feature. Yeah, I do just want to be careful of Pickle Fight. So it's their first run on replay. So it is definitely something that is very gameplay focused. So you will be able to replay your turn. They've not yet implemented a full battle replay, which is, I think, probably the brass ring. But in this case here, we're definitely able to unpack that. So let's just follow what happened to each different character. So we'll start with the Sleipnir. Now this is my assault rifle. This is one of my fastest moving units. And again, its whole job this time around was basically to just run away. So we'll do this at, yeah, we can do this at full speed. Well, that's maybe a little too fast. So we'll do it at a half speed maybe. So they got a couple of extra shots just off to the side here, but the big thing is, yes, they took damage, 116, but you'll notice as far as their health is concerned off to the left here, they didn't lose too much. So obviously a really big playmaker this time was the marksman unit. And this is like, so I was kind of laughing at the fact that I gave this a melee weapon because of course the marksman is such it's such a heavily ranged focused unit. But in this case here, like the only way out is through. So our option really is to just go barreling through and to just attack as many things as we could with the melee weapon. And that's exactly what happened here. So, and again, the intention is going to be to eventually use the marksman rifle, but the plan was basically to attack the mech first, But in this case, I had an opportunity to attack not only the mech, but also to get the tank in the same hit. So this guy's going to eject next turn, and this unit was already wiped out. So not content taking out 2 enemy units in one hit. It's like, did you just fire a missile at me? How dare you? 646 damage on that. Nox Kaim, how you doing? So, we're almost done our replay. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to follow my Lance. So again, my Lance is my big slow-moving one now. They've got the shield, so under normal circumstances, like there's another version of this battle where you could sort of see this unit moving up to the front and trying to absorb all the enemy attacks. And I just make sure that I move my units behind them. But because I don't really have that strong of a shield, like I have a strong shield, but it's not like take the entire enemy force kind of strong. And also because my, some of my own weapons do require a direct line of sight, what I decided was just to sort of delta split and hope that everybody went through. Melee is incredibly strong in this game. I'd actually say, so I used to have a weapon where basically every time I attacked an enemy mech, it would knock it down. So it was guaranteed to just take it out for the turn. I don't know if they nerfed that weapon or I just happened to get very lucky with it, but I definitely do not encounter that in Melee as often. But yes, Melee is an incredibly strong option. You can also wind up in serious trouble with it because it takes up a lot of heat and it can sometimes put you in a disadvantageous position. But in this case here, it really, really carried its weight. So in this case here, for the big guy, our intention was where we could to fire our weapon. So this was going after the machine gunner. But again, because this is my heaviest mech, it also has the option of being able to sort of bully the smaller units. So in this case, again, I've never really felt like our shotgun does that much damage, but this disabled the shotgun tank, or it should have. It looks like it did, although the collision seemed to be on the other spot. And then, of course, he should have shot. Oh, for some reason I went for the tank rather than the... All right, fair enough. Last participant, and that was the machine gunner. Now, the machine gunner was being protected by the Lance to knock out the tank. Oh, I have to go to volleyball. Thank you very much, Momoko and Johanna. I'm glad you liked the little bit of Phantom Brigade you got to see. Have a great time at volleyball, and I look forward to the next chance we get a chance to talk. But yeah, what we're going to do here is, this is a little less important, but basically we just want to see what happened damage-wise. So there was a tank with a shotgun coming after us. We tried to protect it with the Lance. How much damage did we wind up doing on our real target, which was the machine gunner? Oop, we are too far in the timeline. So again, held back for the tank. This is the shotgun tank that was going to be inconveniencing us. So now we're moving into an area where we can take some damage, but here comes the Lance to help out. And now we get a clear shot on the machine gun. Although it looks like there's a bit of spread on those attacks. So not everything hit. So now we're going to go back to planning the turn. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind about how... so we're talking about how damage was modeled. It does get quite detailed. So notice here that we've got a tank. Right now it's crashing, and it's got its right side... It's got its right side damage. So for tanks, if you damage the sides, they can no longer move. Which for a shotgun tank is... It kind of renders it useless. The catch is that it's actually in range of of one of my units, so I am going to want to move to adjust. So in this case here, oh, wrong one. So this unit is going to wind up attacking its old target. So I am, once the machine gun is done firing, I'm going to want to move out of the way just to make sure that I don't take unnecessary damage. Of course, my other option is just to crash into the tank again, but that's, we'll see. I may have other feelings about that. So of course, we already covered that this tank was destroyed. That was destroyed by the melee attack. This unit's ejecting, and that's because it did have a weapon, but because there was, I think, like 600 damage that it got hit with on the arm, it only has a shield now. The only way that it could really participate in the fight would be to block damage that was coming in from others. Now this unit is firing a marksman rifle, so even though I've got a strong shield, like, I want to take this pretty seriously. The damage that it does is 396. So remembering that right now I put the weak arm on it, that'll definitely take out my shield arm. Actually, I'm wondering if I actually have the hollowed plating on it, because this is 289. I don't know if I actually replaced it. But there's an easier thing that I can do to make life easy. Or sorry, there's an easier thing that I can do to avoid the damage. So I don't need to worry about hitting this target. Obviously, it's already down. So what I can do is I can just move behind this building, and now the marksman rifle isn't the same threat it was. I might want to try and move a little bit, further like this. Of course, if I move up like so, that still keeps me in range of targeting this tank. But I'm going to have to wait a while before I can fire. So, you know what, I think we'll just keep rumbling along. We are going to be able to have words with the big guy here. So you'll notice that I waited just a second after when they were in range, and I did that because I want them to be up and firing. That moves their shield away from my weapon, and it either exposes their weapon to me or their torso, and their torso is currently damaged. So we're finishing the melee attack, so not a whole lot to look at here. One thing that's kind of nice, if you notice, this unit's attacking me with its machine gun. Now, its legs are very heavily damaged. It's likely that this machine gun will be sufficient for taking it out. But what's nice here is that it's trying to attack me with its machine gun. It's out of its optimal range, but this unit is actually in my optimal range. So I could just immediately give it a, how dare you, reply. As it turns out, though, this guy's in the way, so I'm gonna have to move somewhere else to make that happen if I want it to. Okay, so melee strike comes in here. I was trying to make sure I'm at the edge of its effective range. So we start with 1. Okay, now that's not the best probability to hit. I think we can afford to be a little closer. Yeah, it's a pretty steep drop-off, but I think I'll live with it. Now this is a little bit of a flyer, because the way it is giving me the indication that it's actually going to hit the ground, but I think this is a chance worth taking. Now, one thing you'll notice too, so the Sleipnir, we spent a lot of time protecting it because it was targeted by a couple of tough attacks, but nobody's really focusing on them anymore. So this is a nice chance for me to get some nice hits from behind on, on enemy units. So I do need to manage my heat a little bit. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of move around the edges and where I can. I'm not so sure about this choice, though. Okay, let's reconsider. So I do like the idea of kind of running out and sort of poking the enemy like this. What I'm not crazy about, though, is getting to the end of the turn and being exposed. Yeah, so I think that's the best we can sort of hope for right now. It's not much, but... Okay, so I'm going to keep firing the machine gun here, and this is just because it's a chance for us to potentially knock this enemy over. I do need to worry about the shotgun immediately following, though, so if I run back... there's actually quite a few people who want to do me harm, so I'm going to take a slightly different approach here. Okay, so we're going to start with a dash... Oop, we can't do that. I want to do the dash as soon as I can. Perfect, okay. So there's a really specific reason why I want to get a dash done here. So notice as the time goes by, it fires a missile at me. So one thing that's nice about the missiles, I'm slightly worried it's going to crash me for doing that. So let's get an insurance policy. Okay, that crash is actually probably its own unit. Okay, so number one, dashing will mess with the missile. Number two, it's kind of getting me out of the immediate threats. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of just hug the edge of the buildings right now. So as this missile's trying to track me, it's also likely going to hit one of these. So it's kind of obvious I'm not going to have enough heat to be able to fire on the enemy. So in this case, I'm moving sort of not parallel. I'm moving perpendicular to the enemy's attack, and that's going to minimize the damage that I take. If I want, I could also maybe try throwing up a shield, but the numbers don't quite work. I mean, there is a actually, you know what? It probably makes some sense to do that, even if it means that I need to wait a little while on my my dashing escape. And again, same logic, just sort of hug the buildings. Although maybe I want to hold back a little bit, because if I can fire my machine gun at an enemy unit, that's even better. Yeah, so we'll hang out here for a little bit, I think. If I can run around the edge and start poking them afterwards, that's fine too, but... Okay, so my shotgunner, I guess I just kind of gave up moving them afterwards, so... So we'll hold the position. Okay, that's too hot, so we'll just wait for the end. Okay, that's our new turn. So I am probably going to watch this in slow motion, but again, it's always tough to tell what I should be watching first. Oh, we're so close to taking out its legs. Okay, looks like I wound up crashing for some reason. So that's unlucky with my marksman. I was relying on it to do quite a bit. This is brutal. Okay, fortunately, we gotta take him out. Okay, so there's that missile we were worried about. So that looks like it's right on track to bonk me on the head. I want to be really careful about... Oh, this game is unbelievably good. One of the things that makes it so so good too is the score by Riley Koenig. So it turns out he wound up going to the same university that I did at the time that I was there, and he was pursuing his PhD in music. I was doing something boring, econ. but yeah, he's done a few games. So a Fold Apart is one that I immediately remember. But he definitely has a very cinematic style, which I think really works well for this game. Okay, we can take a quick look at the replay. So you'll notice this mech was still up and running, so it was able to do a lot of damage to my marksman unit before it got taken out. This unit kind of did what it needed to do with the unit that fired the missile, but this is the problem with the shotgun, is I really only get to fire it once a turn, and so that's why I'm thinking about replacing that particular weapon. I think honestly the rest of this is just a question of seeing like what units are standing, what units do I need to clean up. So this unit with the marksman is actually probably my biggest worry right now. So I definitely do not want to be risking this unit unnecessarily. I've got 62 on the legs and 62 on the right arm, so either one of those hits landing is a problem. Now, fortunately, I'm actually able to do a melee strike immediately, and that more or less moves me out of the danger zone, which is good. So next problem is that I've got a missile coming straight for my machine gunner. So I'm already running kind of hot, but at this point I'm deciding between heat damage or missile damage. And I think I prefer heat damage. So the follow-up question is, do I want to focus on the unit that fired the missile, or do I want to focus on the tank? Now, it looks like the tank's moving around the corners, so I guess that answer's kind of already been decided for me. Okay, and looks like we are... I really don't like wasting a turn. There's not a whole lot for me to do here. Okay, well that... Usually when I say there's not a lot for me to do here, that's an indicator that I've moved to the wrong spot. So we'll hop up on this building. Okay, so it looks like they want to fire on me right away. Yeah, I think that's the best I'm going to do. Again, there's a small worry that maybe the missile's able to turn in time, but that's a risk I'm going to have to take, I think. Okay, I think probably public enemy number 1 for me is the unit with the... Ooh, actually. Okay, I'm going to take a slightly different approach than what I was planning. So first thing I want to do is actually crash into this machine gun unit. And I'm actually going to put the shield up against the marksman that's targeting it. You know, it looks like we're just throwing our shield at everything. I don't know if my shield can actually take multiple hits from the marksman rifle. Basically, the idea here is I wanted to disable these tanks so I could focus on the unit with the marksman rifle, which is kind of causing me the most stress. There's really no excuse for the Sleipnir to be hiding back like this anymore, so I'm going to move in. I'm going to attack basically anything that's in range when I can. If I can get a shot to the back, so much the better. Actually looks like I may... Actually, I think maybe the target's the lance. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Can I get a third? It crosses over into the next turn, but I think in this case it's worth it. Okay. I think we're just going to leave the marksman here for now. I need a little bit more clarity in terms of where it's going to be needed. It's already taken out 2 units. It's really hard to... Oop. You can do it! He jumped right into the missile. That's 69% concussion. Man, this thing is a beast. I'm hoping I don't crash again like the last time. Right now we're just, again, bullying our way through all the different tanks. The Sleipnir should be coming in to get some good back shots on public enemy number 1. Well, we just stomped on that one. So we're definitely in a tricky spot as far as the shield's concerned. That's got quite a bit of damage, but we did just take out a couple of enemy units. And I'm going to have to think a bit about missile on its way. I suspect by the end of this, we're going to be able to dedicate our attention to this unit. We're not quite at the point where we've taken out this tank. Maybe we can get it to incapacitated. Okay, no, it's done. So this machine gunner's still up and running. It's probably not going to surrender. Nope, it's definitely not going to surrender. And actually, I'm curious why my Sleipnir's crashing. We can watch that in full speed. Okay, I guess it fell over the tank. It's a little annoying, but... okay, so we've got a missile to deal with. To be honest, it's not entirely clear to me if it's targeting the Sleipnir or the... or the lance. If it's targeting the Sleipnir, I'm probably going to dash too late. But I'm going to get out of the way nonetheless. Let's start by moving out of the range of the machine gun. Well, I mean, it's kind of academic at this point. It's gonna get a full turn of attacking me. So in this case, I'm just gonna take the shield to... I'm gonna take the shield to disable the tank first. Okay, now I do have an opportunity here with the machine gunner. So it's not a perfect shot, but it's enough for me to get the job done. So part of the appeal here is now going to be getting the Sleipnir to move up. So what I'm doing here is in the world of this game, you've developed a technology that allows you to see 5 seconds into the future. It gives you perfect knowledge of your enemy's intent. I say your enemy's intent because, of course, the actions that you will take during the turn can potentially affect the outcomes. So, for instance, if your enemy trips over something and their mech crashes, then clearly they are not going to do the shot, that happens after the crash. And that's, a little bit like how some of the strategy of Into the Breach is based around preventing enemies from being able to take certain actions. Likewise, in Phantom Brigade, it can be advantageous to get in the enemy's way, basically. So that's one reason why I'm throwing my shield up and barreling into this tank first, is that I do not want this thing to empty its machine gun into my Sleipnir, one of my weaker units. Weak in terms of integrity. Obviously, it's as a combatant, it's very strong, but as a thing that can be damaged, it is relatively weak. So there's a slightly smarter way I can do this. So I'm just going to move back. Now there is a small worry that the missile's actually intended. Oh, that's right. Sorry. So I do want to make sure that I'm dashing. I'll explain why I changed that in a second. So this dash is to confuse the missile in case it's after me, but I have a feeling it's probably just going to bonk me on the head and it will be unfortunate. But basically, as far as the intention goes, so the plan here is, because this is going to be throwing its shield up against the Sleipnir, what I can do is I can move the Sleipnir into a position where it's going to track the shield. And of course, notice what's happened here is it's exposed its right-hand side to the machine gunner that's going to be firing on it the whole time. So the shield's directed to the wrong spot. The most likely source of damage is now targeting its weapon hand. And, I'm sort of able to do whatever I want in the meantime. Like the rest of my turn is basically going to be building on that advantage. I think in this case I'm just going to dash everywhere I can to try and get a hit on the back. Okay. There could be better scenarios, but I'm not going to let... Oh, actually, that works really well for me because they turn their back as soon as the marksman shots come in. Okay, let's see how it turns out. So I'm particularly interested in what's happening to my Sleipnir. So this unit should crash into it. You should also see what's happening with the missile. Looks like that is directed towards the Sleipnir, so not looking good for him. Yeah, it's a lot of concussion. I suspect we also lost... Or no, I think that thing had already been destroyed, so... So I can speed things up a little bit. Again, that dash was just in case I misinterpreted where the missile was heading. So hopefully this shotgun shot will take out the tank. Right now this is targeting the shield because they haven't directed their shield towards the Sleipnir, but that's going to change in a second. Remember, the marksman's also going to open fire, so... Oh, already the right arm's gone. So, and I believe that tank's gone, so we basically just won the turn. There's going to be a lot of repairs as a result of this. Oh boy. And now I'm destroying all the beloved scrap. So we can speed that up. Okay. So one thing I can do to try and like lower the losses for the scrap is just move this mech around so that it's not effective at firing. Let me just make sure that the enemy units are in fact all giving up. So this unit has not yet surrendered, but it will next turn. The rest of this is just playing out the turn. So, oh, we blew it up. All right. Victory! All units, all hostiles eliminated. Site under control. Okay, so we've got 180 scrap to play around with. We didn't lose any parts. We're just going to have to do a lot of repairs. So as I usually do, I will pick up any rare and uncommons, and then we'll try and sort out... Okay, actually, looks like we did well for ourselves. So I suppose the next is we take the scrap off of the full... So again, you've got a limit in terms of the scrap budget. If you take something whole, that costs you the most scrap. If something is damaged, it costs more because you need to repair it, and if it's intact, it costs you less. So notice here that for this right Nox arm, it's a common, so it's gray. I don't really bother with it. That only costs me 5, whereas if I were to scrap the Astra, that costs me 10. And again, it's just a question in terms of essentially it's an incentive if you can to either knock out or force enemy pilots to eject. The more you do that, then the more bang for your buck, effectively. Sorry, I just need to wrap myself up in my blanket again. So there's just going to be a little bit of work here. So if you hit control, you can get some extra values. And in this case, I'm interested in the highest number for supplies. So that heavy launcher is worth 35 supplies, for instance. This is worth 45, though. Okay, so we've got a couple of 45s here we'll start with. Okay, so I really only have 5 left. At this point, I don't think there's a whole lot of value in trying to find a way of working that extra 5, so let's just lock it in. Okay, now as you can see, some of my mechs are a bit damaged. There's also just some, in general, there's just some stuff that I want to get done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to stealth for a second so that we can get out of range. Okay, now we'll go normal. So part of this is just going to be, so I'm just kind of taking the time to repair my different ships, or my different mechs. I'm also going to go to the workshop. I believe we should have enough to be able to build a new mech frame. And we've got enough parts to sort of be able to make that worth doing. So that's going to cost us 200 supplies. We've got, well, 557, so maybe not as many as you'd think. But we do have space for another mech frame, so I think it makes sense to get that in the queue as quickly as I can. Lots of different items that I can build, and I am sort of accumulating rare components and uncommon components. But before I start building upgrades for my squad, I'm actually going to focus on upgrades for the base. So I think it was capacitors that I was worried. Okay, so we've got as many capacitors as we can pull in. So rapid ignition, if I had the supplies, I would be able to reduce the regeneration delay after energy is drained, so that's tempting. Cruise speed improves the transmission, which supports a higher cruise speed, but increases the noise and makes base detectable at a longer range. I'm not opposed to that. Cruise sensing replaces a sensor array equipment to allow for a longer range of enemy detection. That doesn't have a penalty with it. Overdrive shielding adds heat shielding to the reactor, reducing the heat signature in overdrive mode, increasing Increased noise makes the base harder to see at a distance, but easier to identify at close range. Interesting. Not sure how I feel about that yet. Stealth sensing improves the vision range with low emission sensors that will not compromise the base's stealth mode. Now this interests me because I do try to keep in stealth mode for as long as I can. Stealth efficiency is probably a little more in line with what I want to do though. So I guess it really comes down to the question, do I want to wait with my scrap? Actually, okay, first thing I'm going to do, I guess there's no select all, is there? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. First of all, we need to repair all our mechs. So we'll just run around the overworld and let that happen. Nope. I think it's 4, but that's one of the reasons why I want to build this 5th mech, is to make sure that that's storage. But I believe you can. I believe you can field 4, and then if you are doing scenarios like I'm doing here, like if you're helping the home guard fight the occupying force, the game will give you ally units that you can control as well. So I've noticed that it's usually 2 tanks on top of your mechs. Your question was mechs, so the answer should be 4, so far as I can tell. But you will be able to pilot up to 6 in a scenario. So far, I don't know if there's a stated cap. Flag down. As you wind through country roads on the mobile base, one of your pilots calls out to tell you that someone is outside waving for your attention. They may be in need of assistance. The mobile base comes to a shaky stop. You and one of your pilots gets out to talk to the woman. Thank you. You're the Brigade, aren't you? She says. They've been calling us that. Yeah, your pilot says. What can we do for you? It's more that what I can do for you. I have some information about a place I saw not far from here. One of your pilots comes over to show you where the new location is on the map. It could be armed to the teeth with guards, or it might be abandoned. Let me worth your risk, the pilot says. Could have something useful. What do you think, boss? Should we investigate? Okay, so let's just take a look at where that location is. Oof, that's... yeah, I don't think we're quite ready to abandon Fearland. Let's let the rebellion finish before we go too far out. But yeah, so what I'm doing right now is I want to make sure all my mechs are repaired before I start playing around with the loadouts. Okay. You don't repair your mechs when you're in stealth mode, so this is now going to allow me to move on the camp, but the first thing I want to do is get my improvements in. The way I've normally done this is if it's a unit, like the lowest level units get their first claim at upgrades, and then the higher level. So between the bull and the ray, I'll probably take care of the bull first, just because it's the one with the machine gun that makes it run really hot. The ray, I thought I was going to be messing around with, but I'm pretty happy with where it's at. And then the Sleipnir's usually the playmaker, so I'll probably work with that first, and then finally the lance. But again, I can shift them around depending on how I think things are going. So I've got an upper body. The arrow does give it a little extra barrier. So this is one thing that it's taken me a while to learn, but I've definitely become much more accustomed to the way that the equipment sort of works in this game. So if you were to compare the arrow to my current torso, the Nox, you'd say it's like, oh, okay, well, the barrier goes up, barrier regeneration goes up, but you lose, you lose the heat dissipation. That must be specifically to this arrow, right? And you have to choose one or the other. That's not entirely true. What I've learned is that the heat dissipation, I believe, can be a feature of the torso, but more often it's going to be a function of your core and your subsystem. So it's actually, the torsos are probably the most difficult to compare, for the simple reason that, like, this particular torso that I have has Atlas thrusters. So, high performance thrusters, but heavy, as it says. Also, big power drain. The core is a launch core. So, it's, in this case, the power output is larger than it would be on another mech, but the heat dissipation sort of falls as a consequence. In sort of a supplement to that, I suppose, I've got a heat capacitor, so that basically the heat cap is higher. And then head armor I don't focus as much on, but you can adjust it. It'll have some different integrity and mass and so on. It may be that this will interact with the new pilot system that's coming in August. But my birthday's in July. Why can't they give me a Phantom Brigade birthday present? But yeah, the head armor is something you can adjust, but I haven't noticed it really mess with those stats. So in any case, what I'm trying to suggest here is that when you do a direct comparison like this, some of the features that you might be saying is like, well, I would never give that up. I just simply need to have the better thruster power and the high heat dissipation. That may actually be something that you can keep. So for instance, here I'm looking at a mech with higher power and a higher barrier regeneration, but what I also notice is that it's got a regen core. It's got an excellent capacitor, so I suspect that its heat cap is going to be higher. So what I'm mostly interested in is, would it be possible for me to switch out the thrusters from sidesteps to that Atlas, and would this arrow still be an improvement? Is a barrier like an energy shield? Yes. So integrity is your armor. Now, the way the game handles this has changed. So it used to be that there would basically be infinite repairs for free as soon as you were off the battlefield. What happens now is both your integrity as well as your barrier repairs will cost a certain amount of sort of this repair gel. That happens in the overworld, and you get that repair gel back by visiting sort of friendly territory and taking some time to reload. So it basically kind of stops you from being, like, again, you're sort of this insurgency, sort of hopping from dangerous mission to dangerous mission. The idea of you being this sort of unstoppable force that just goes from, like, fight to fight, even if the enemy just clobbered your mechs, maybe doesn't quite line up with what the intention was. So in this particular case here, your overworld repairs are going to be treated with the same resource, but your battlefield damage is going to be quite different. So if you lose integrity, you can't get it back until you repair outside the battlefield. Barrier will slowly regenerate, and I do mean slowly. There are things you can do to improve it, but you basically do not want to be building this assuming that you've got 75 barrier per turn. But there is a bit of a trade-off. Personally, I have not focused a lot on barrier. There are a couple of weapons which have low integrity but a very high barrier. And so the idea here would be that if you can reliably sort of moderate the damage that your mech is taking, that would be a really effective tool, because effectively you're getting an equivalent amount from integrity. Sorry, an equivalent amount that you would normally see in terms of integrity in barrier, which is something you can regenerate on the battlefield. But I've always found that to be a little bit risky of a proposition, because of course when your integrity gets to 0, you lose the item, and so it doesn't matter. Like, you could regenerate forever. If the integrity is 0, you're not gonna have any more protection, basically. But on the other hand, like, all things being equal, well, 402 integrity and 75 barrier as opposed to just 402 integrity, why wouldn't I, go for it? So the way I've kind of figured I work with this is I just try and do roughly equivalent loadouts. So it's a tricky one for me here because this one also has an excellent capacitor and the sidestep thruster. So I'm gonna just make sure that I can. Okay, yeah. So I do have the sidestep thruster, and then sorry, it was the regen core compared to my current launch. So it's not full apples to apples, but it'll give me a hint. Yeah. Okay. So this thing has considerably less heat dissipation. That might be a deal breaker for me. You know what? Let's see if we can make something interesting happen. Okay, so this thing's got an excellent capacitor on it, so I'm wondering maybe I change the core around. So the regen core's got the worst heat dissipation of all. So even if I went for a charge, that doesn't quite work for me actually. So I could be bold and go for an overdrive. Oof, look at that 20. But I also want to make sure that I get those Atlas thrusters on too. So yeah, I probably have gone a little too far on the speed side of the equation. So let's maybe... So I'm willing to give up some power as long as it means that I get some heat dissipation. Okay, so you know, let's just throw a standard core on this thing. Wow, that's a big drop. Well, let's see what else comes up. Okay, so this Elbrus, I'm not really comfortable dropping the integrity so much on these. Also, I've got excellent hydraulics. We've got the Asgard arm. That's a heavy arm, which I don't have much use for here. So this shield is pretty much better in every possible way. But it might actually be one that I want to put on my lance first. So I'm going to wait. I'm actually going to wait before I do, before I switch out the shield here. And I don't think I got a better machine gun, but let's just double check. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Okay, so I may change the shield in this loadout, but I'm reasonably happy with how I moved up the bull. So the ray, again, the ray surprised me just because of how effective it was at melee. Also, its marksman weapon's pretty effective too. So I think giving up... I definitely don't need heat dissipation on this thing, so giving up the integrity, especially for mass, isn't worth it. Heavy arm doesn't make sense, so I wouldn't put that on the right arm anyway, or either. No better melee weapon, so unless there's a better marksman, yeah. Nothing really for me to work with on the ray. One thing I may change would be things like thrusters, so we gave it the low guy. The reach is kind of tempting because of its... Well, the reach or the hot rod are tempting. I think I'd give up some speed for that. Charge Shore's given me some extra heat capacity, which we haven't had a huge problem with. So I'm wondering if we could head down to something like a stand... Oh, wow, I don't have standard cores. Okay. All right, well, you know what? I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave that be on its own then. So, as always, just take a quick look at any of the new parts for my... Okay, so right now I've been using the blast handgun. I could switch to the tactical SMG. Now, what's interesting here about the SMG, it does do less damage, but it's got considerably more concussive damage. I'm actually really interested in that. It's a little heavier, though. So maybe we'll leave that for now, but it is one I want to... I think I want to keep an eye on that. Okay, the Lance, I've actually got some decisions to make here. So first of all, let's just take a look and see... Okay, so we're getting, looks like 71 more integrity. We're giving up... I mean, it's a net bonus of about 10. It weighs less, so it will make this thing a little speedier. I could probably put the basic plating back on, or the heavy plating back on, though. Oh, no, I can't. I can't switch that out. Okay. I'm not opposed to putting this thing on, and then we can just give the hand-me-down to the... I figured the absolute number is probably more important. Okay, now how's the shotgun compared to the SMG? Doesn't really. Again, I'm trying to think of some close range shenanigans I can do. The other possibility is... I'm going to try making this an artillery piece for a turn. I don't think it 100% works, but I want to try it. I'm also trying to see if there's a way I can get that Asgard arm in, but I think the catch is going to be if I push too hard, I'm going to wind up... yeah, 12 is already pretty slow. Okay, so we're going to jump back to the bull for a second just to look at the other shield. So this is a little heavy for it, but yeah, 13's not bad. Okay, I don't hate it. So the big reason why I wanted to do this right now, I'm actually gonna filter individually. I know it's not... Oh, is there really... Sorry. I thought there might be a way that you could sort by the... maybe we'll go by rarity. Okay, so no point in keeping the Starburst or the Clipper. If I'm keeping the shotgun, don't I have a better one? The Svalin is the only one I'm willing to keep. Okay, now we're going to switch by level. I want to start imposing some caps, because, like, am I honestly going to be bringing in level 2 legs when everybody's level 4? Not really. So, let's say anything sort of like armor and... like, anything sort of related to armor and defense. I think we're going to put a cutoff at level 2. Might even go so far as level 3, but we do have another mech coming in, so I want to keep myself open to the possibility that they may be able to contribute something. So I'm doing scrap and detach here just because I'm also going to do an audit of extra components. Okay, so can group just to see. Yeah, so like I don't really see a need for 3 or 4 machine guns when I've already decided on the machine gun that I like the most. But like I said, we're gonna wait until the new mech is ready. But what I did want to do was switch to all subsystems. So maybe we can switch by level again, but level's not quite as important. You know what? Let's maybe go by type if we can. I was hoping that there was a way of me saying, like, I've got 4 regen cores. So like if I have 4 regen cores, there's really no reason for me to keep any more. Like if I'm going to have 4 mechs, there's no point in having 5 of a particular part. So what I'm also noticing here, so let's go by level just so I can make it easier. So let's say a charge core here. So this is 74 power, 115 heat capacity, 15 dissipation. Let's compare that to a charge. That's a level 3. Do I really not have... Well, there's a 4. 74, 8, 115, 15. So, like, these do have levels, but they don't actually seem to translate into... they don't actually seem to translate into numbers. At least when you have two levels between them. Be nice to see an overdrive. Well, 3 to 3. I guess it's still a larger gap, but 85, 36, 85, 15. 85, 36, 85, 15. Yeah, so levels for the cores don't actually seem to mean that much, although I do believe they do affect the overall level of your mech. Anyways, I do want to clean out the subsystems at some point, but one of the reasons why I wanted to scrap a lot of that stuff was not just to get my scrap back, but it was to free up some of those parts that might have been holding me back. Oh, Jesus, that's a lot of scrap. Okay, so I can start getting some of my goodies again. So I think I wanted the stealth efficiency first. Okay, so we still have some upgrades that we can do. Stealth sensing, improve. Oh yeah, actually I think we were talking about rapid ignition, but clearly we closed that off. Stealth sensing... I feel like... Yeah, so we're already sensing an overdrive, so let's go for cruise sensing. Okay, that's a little bit better. Again, some of these do have negative effects, so I want to be kind of cautious on how I handle it. So, we are not going to make a move on the camp, but as soon as I get into sensor range, we're going to move to stealth, so... There we go. And then, once we're in detection range, we'll hit it with the overdrive. Oh, there's another fight happening. Okay. So even though they're on their way to come and get us, it's too late. We're now targeting the base. This may be the last battle for tonight, just because it's quite late, and I'm getting close to my usual runtime. I do have some stuff that I need to get done before I finish for tonight. So I was going to get a refill of my tea, but I'll power through it just for you, chat, and I'll get a refill after the broadcast. Because clearly drinking more tea for bed is in line with my goal of getting a proper good night's sleep. Okay. What are we up against? I was going to say this looks suspiciously easy. So there's reinforcements, first of all. We're dropping in here. Exactly, Tikri. So we do have a couple of options of approach, so we can kind of go around the side here or here. There is a cluster of enemies. Because this is a base, it's possible that some of these are turrets, but I never want to rely on that. I think the biggest Biggest thing I need to worry about, although this definitely looks like a turret here. The biggest thing I need to worry about is how long it takes between landing and when the reinforcements arrive. Because if these wind up being really heavy mechs and we get stuck in a really difficult fight, those reinforcements are going to rip us to shreds. And if it turns out that this is a, you know, like there's a lot of them, but they wind up being relatively weak enemies, then, you know, we just kind of set up, wait for the reinforcements to arrive, and then just eat them like popcorn. So, only one way to find out how it's going to go, and that's to deploy. I will color my mechs again, but I wanted to try and go for colors based on the parts that they'd pick up. So I like this map because it has a lot of cover. Right, rebel units in range, engaging, requesting backup. So it looks like they're actually going on they're pretty aggressive at the start. So there's a turret here. That's actually going to cause a little bit of difficulty in terms of controlling this area, right? So I say that I like this cover, but they already have it, and the turret's going to be protecting them. There's another turret over here, and another turret over here. So I believe you do not need to take out turrets anymore once the mechs are gone. I used to ignore turrets, but I actually ran into a couple of battles where that wound up really hurting me, so I may revise my opinion on that. One thing I am going to do, though, because this is my first time using missiles in a while, I'm actually going to think a little bit about my approach here. So I've got my, artillery. I do want to target. Oop. Well, what's in range? Okay. Yeah. So what I want to be doing here, if I can, is still out of range. Good lord. Okay. That complicates things. That actually, I think that makes this worse than the... I actually think that makes this worse than the... Oh, that still says it's out of range. Kind of feel like this makes this worse than the shotgun. Then again, it's saying everything is out of range. So what is the actual range on this thing? 146 to 254. Wait, so is the idea here that... Holy hell! Okay. I definitely need to reconsider my approach here then. Well, we're like right at the edge of the map. Yeah, that's a huge defect. What a ridiculous range to have for... Like, the range of this weapon is like longer than the map, basically. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. I want to see how this thing performs, but I have a feeling this is going to be... This is not going to be a very good way of operating. Alright, well, I mean, again, it was an experiment. I definitely like the idea of running the Sleipnir up like this. So sorry, I should be a little kinder to the game on this. So this is the edge of the map right here. On the other hand, though, like, let's be fair. Like, most of this map is not accessible to this weapon. So yeah, I have a feeling I'm going to be switching this out pretty quickly. But again, the whole point of the Sleipnir is to sort of just run in and be annoying. Now, I do still want to make sure that I'm covered when the when the fight happens. So the reason I wanted to target this unit in particular was just because I figured that they were going to be clustered up with the tanks. Now, what's probably going to happen if I move the Sleipnir up here, these tanks are probably going to want to get in close. So this is an autocannon. Okay, so a pair of autocannons, they're definitely going to want me to do that. So instead, I'm going to just run back around the edge. Okay, so with that in mind, what can I do with the marksman rifle that's interesting? Unfortunately, it looks like the tanks... You know what? Let's just clear out the turret. Unless I have a good shot on the... Well, it is in range. Just need to slightly adjust the movement for the... So if it looks like this movement is weird, it's basically built around the idea of trying to get in position where it's most likely that this missile's going to hit this building. Okay, now the machine gun kind of has to stand and deliver. Actually, that works to their advantage for the most part. It's going to get a little hairy, I think. This is going to cause a crash. Oh, nope. Lucky me. So right now, this is a lot more about protecting... There's a lot more about protecting this unit from the enemy. I am possibly causing myself some problems by moving so close to these tanks, but I also kind of feel I can sort of slide around the edge of the building if I have to. This is a bit of a weird start, but I don't hate it, so... But definitely I'm most curious about what happens with the missile. Alright, his right arm's already out. Okay, so it looks like there's a couple missiles that went through. So this guy still has a sidearm to work with, so I need to build accordingly. Okay, so I am going to need to dodge some enemy missiles, it looks like. So let's just make sure that we handle this as gracefully as we can first. Interesting, so it looks like they're actually going to be focusing missiles on me over here. How do I take advantage of that? Okay, I'm gonna move around the edge like so. Okay, so we don't have a read yet on how effective this missile launch was. So I'm basically just gonna move the... So again, I really hate that I'm doing this with my tanky mech, because like obviously so much of this is relying on the fact that I can move like this. But I mean, again, when in Rome, right? So I am going to track these missiles just to see how everything turns out. Now they're using the sidearm on me pretty much right away. So I'm gonna go out fighting. Okay, I do get a chance to get a second round off. I don't quite have the heat for it though. Okay, well that's fine, because I should... Secondary weapon it is. Ah, but we run into the missiles. Okay. So... awkward. Okay, so if we dash into the middle so we don't overheat, it does still tickle the edge of the target though. Yeah, it's kind of an all or nothing proposition with that. Okay, so we're gonna just take a totally different approach there. That's actually, so in retrospect, that's a really smart little trap that they laid there. So that basically stops me from being able to use as much of the cover as I would normally want. So go around the edge. Okay, I mean it is a sidearm, so it's not going to do catastrophic damage to me, but the fact of the matter is it's damage I wasn't expecting to take, so. Now, it's pretty clear that this is going to cause me some problems, and I really don't have anything else to do with this particular unit. So I'm just going to fire this weapon as many times as I can. And of course, if somebody runs into the targeting zone, you know, so much the better for me. But until then, we're just going to take down the main obstacle to getting what I want done. Okay. I also need to be a little mindful of the fact that there's still missiles coming after me, but okay, so I'll just wait a beat. Now I can turn my attention on the tanks. So of course, this unit's kind of being ignored. Well, not exactly. I guess the missiles are still coming after it. I will use the machine gunner, but I won't use it quite yet. So replay is probably going to be good for figuring out what's happening with the missiles. Really wasn't that effective, although if we could have got another concussion in, we could have taken that unit out completely. So these were those missiles that counted as out of range. So they're just going to go slamming into the side of the building. It will be interesting, though, to see what happens with this one. So this may indirectly support me through the fact that with a bit of luck, these might actually sort of land at the same time. Like, this guy might, by a pure fluke, run into the missile. And we've done enough concussive damage that... No. Oh, man. Imagine what that would have been like if that was just a little bit higher. Yeah, the turret's out. I think we're gonna have to wait to see what happens with the missiles. Okay, so I think it's a pretty obvious move for the Sleipnir here. The question is just how quickly can I pull it off? Yeah, they're pretty much going... They're going after me right away. I actually rather suspect I'm not going to be able to deliver on this, so maybe I want to focus on a different strategy. So this unit's obviously causing us a lot of trouble because of its launcher. So first of all, is the Sleipnir relatively safe? It's in a crossfire and actually in a pretty ideal range temporarily. Honestly though, I don't think we're going to get any better. So let's target this unit. So the first batch of missiles was a failure. I also think the second batch is going to be useless because it looks like this thing does not arc. It looks like it fires straight. So not only does this thing need to be fired across the map, but it has to be fired without any sort of intervening objects. I cannot possibly see a situation in which I would ever use this weapon again. Okay, now it looks like this mech has some interesting ideas about what it wants to do. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to wait this out. Gotta be careful about where the wait happens. Excuse me. Yeah, so that starts too late. Excuse me again. So yeah, there's a couple of worries I have about this, but I think generally this is going to work. And as a side project, nope. I actually think what I'm going to wind up doing... I think I'm just going to wind up hopping on top of a building and... Gonna try and use this to fire on the tank when the time comes. I don't think I can get away with that now without overheating. So this would normally be a worry if it had a cannon, but this is an autocannon, so there isn't a way for it to target me. However, this mech might fire its missiles at me. So with that in mind, these things are already coming after my machine gunner. So I'm gonna run around the side of the building here. I'm going to dash forward. I'm going to run in between sort of these two pillars. I think I'm going to have to see where that takes me, but the hope is we're going to be able to open up with a machine gun on them afterwards. Maybe let's just see what happens when we fire missiles at the turret, I guess. I mean, I suppose the other alternative would be I try and fire against this unit again. Cool. Alright, that actually wound up hitting them, so we're definitely going to look at that and repeat. This was fun to watch. But we gotta go back. So remember, the original plan was for this guy was going to be attacking the marksman. Wah! Surprise! And I don't know if they're going to stay in the fight, but... So finally we'll just see what happened with the Sleipnir. Oops. Sorry, let's bring that back to where it should be. So remembering that these two were going to be attacking it. It actually looks like it completely dodged the attacks and managed to get around the edge of the building. So the follow-up should be it turns around and attacks this unit at some point. Alright, so that was all to the shield. So this was almost perfect for this machine gunner, but unfortunately They just got around the edge, and it looks like a lot of barrier damage to the shield. So it could have been worse, right? It could have attacked them in a more sensitive spot. But we still took damage when we were hoping to avoid it. So, gonna try and get into a good position to sort of stop the shenanigans from this missile unit. If I spend too much time chasing it, I'm not able to fire my weapon. So I think we're just gonna plant here. It's not going to be an ideal shot, but we're at least going to be able to get the most... We're going to be able to get most of it out. This unit's ejecting, so good news for me there. And this unit is... Oh, it's not stuck. Yeah, so they did... they are firing the missiles. So this is kind of a 1 in a million shot that I'm really doing here. Can I get a second? So yes, but the question is, am I able to escape the... So why isn't it recognizing that I'm doing a second shot here? That's so weird. So it's like this second shot doesn't exist. Okay, well that's fine. So we'll go... so I'm just gonna wait it out a little bit. Get some cooling. So this isn't my ideal, but basically they're going to fire the missiles at me. We'll run around the edge. And then, yeah, I'll stick around the edge. They're probably going to fire on me right away. So I'll take advantage of the opportunity and fire with the Sleipnir. And because this is what the cool kids do, let's just keep lobbing missiles at the other missile guy. All right, see how it goes. That's pretty effective. Okay, not a ton of damage here, but basically everybody avoided taking damage, which is the big one for me. So they're focusing on this machine gunner now. So the question is, can they... Alright, they're able to finish their attacks and then the missiles come after them. So what I can do immediately following is dash between the buildings and then hug the next batch. Okay. We will continue the fine tradition of lobbing missiles at. This one actually may turn out because this is out in the open. This thing's toast. So last step is just to let the Sleipnir do its be a pest thing. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot happening this turn. In fact, I can slightly improve it. Who doesn't have an order? Ah, yes, the marksman. Okay. So I do need to start thinking a little bit about what's going to happen with the reinforcements. I think one of the easier things I can do is clear out the towers, just as a precaution. So I'm not gonna move heaven and earth to do it, but I figure I can at least... Man, that doesn't even do that much damage. Yeah, this missile is a crashing disappointment. It'll make me grateful for the shotgun. Sorry, it'll make me grateful for the shotgun when I use it again. Anyways, we want to take this thing out reasonably soon, so they are targeting... Okay, I can work with this. So I'll try and sneak off 2 quick attacks on this machine gun unit. So by then... Alright, missiles are on their way, so here's what we'll do. We'll run up along the side. Then we'll dash towards the buildings, and again, I'm hoping that will create enough collisions to take a little heat damage, but I'm kind of trying to wrap this up. So, and then I add a machine gunner. I think honestly at this point the machine gunner just needs to set up in an area where they can be helpful. Yeah, works. Alright, well, right weapon's down, so it's... Obviously we're doing a lot of damage to it now, so we may actually be killing our scrap doing this. But we do get to focus on something else, so I'm going to, again, take the opportunity to clear out whatever enemies I can. Didn't actually announce that the reinforcements were showing up, but that's exactly what happened here. So we don't know we don't actually know what we're up against yet. What I do know though is I basically have the opportunity to sort of set up a sort of a welcome party for them. So I'm not gonna move away from the main area. Basically, the marksman goes here because they can... It's a decent range for getting some shots. You may notice I'm actually firing. What's happening here is I'm basically firing at the ground. So I don't actually expect this to accomplish a whole lot. One other thing I could maybe try and do is just hit the back here. So it, it goes through the ally on its way to hitting the ground, in the end. In the end, I'm just trying to get a little extra damage if I can. But really what I'm trying to do here is set myself up so that I'm able to properly take on the enemy when they start. So yes, they're going to have their own plans. Yes, they're going to fire their own stuff at me, but I'm going to be able to sort of reply, and I'm going to be able to decide if I want to focus my attacks or not. So let's see how it turns out. Okay, well, that's a lot of concussive damage I didn't want to take. That was completely ineffective. Alright, so now that the reinforcements are here, let's see what we're up against. Okay, so they're really focusing on the marksman at the expense of ignoring the machine gunners, so I think there's possibilities here. I'm not even really looking at what they're packing right now, but I'm targeting a marksman right now. Okay, that's good. This one's a sniper rifle with a compact launcher. Okay, so one thing's for sure. I want to get the marksman just out of danger immediately. Although it's always tempting to see if I can pull off a cheeky... Yes, okay, I do get a parting shot, if you will. So I'm not super confident about the missiles. Oh, incidentally, I was talking about that location, or like the way the damage is modeled. Like, this is a direct effect of the battle. Trying to think. Yeah, as you can see, like this is bombed out. One detail that's probably not apparent right now, and this is partly just because, as you can notice, the background's sort of red and sort of war-torn. That's because the province is being liberated right now. But actually, as you destroy more buildings, there's more and more sort of like dirt and dust that gets kicked up, which I think is another neat effect that they've added in the game. So I don't have high hopes, but in this case, I'm just going to lob missiles at the tanks. Hope for the best, see what happens. Yeah, at this point, I kind of think I need to hope the walls hold up. Maybe one thing I could do would be to dash like this. I have some ideas actually, but let's see where this goes. I think what I'm going to focus on right now is the I'm going to focus on the... Actually, I guess they're both snipers. I'll start by doubling up on these two. Nobody's really targeting the Sleipnir at the start, so we'll stay put. I am, however, going to move back, and that's because there is going to be a tank that's coming after me, so I want to try and escape consequences there if possible. And then I'm going to start focusing on the unit with the sniper rifle. Okay. I think that's all I can really do with my existing units right now. So this time I'm going to slow it down, because we do actually need to see what we're up against and what happens. Cool. Actually, we may be able to do enough concussive to... Alright, well, it's a moot point. So obviously that's some wasted effort now. If I could, I would have redirected that machine gun towards the unit on the right. So we still want to move the marksman, because even though there was a marksman firing after my own marksman, what we're really worried about right now is the missiles coming towards them. They're firing a cluster missile. So we're really close to taking out its legs. You can see there was a little bit of barrier regeneration, it felt like, for a second. But in this case, not quite where we need to be. Now this is an unexpected little bit of friendly fire. I wasn't even expecting something to happen here, but finally I guess we get to see whether or not the missiles... well, if I'm staying put rather, I don't think this is going to be that... I think this is going to wind up sinking me, but maybe we can dash at the start of the next turn. Building's absorbing some of it, but I don't want it to absorb some. I want it to absorb all. Well, I don't know. It's looking pretty good, actually. It's going to run around the edge here. I'm actually going to do something a bit bold. We're going to swipe them. Marksman's basically had enough of your nonsense. So it's not clear that this is actually going to work, but I want to give it a shot. So given that the marksman's now going to be working on these units, I'm going to direct the Sleipnir sort of around any threats on the side. And I want him to focus, if I can, on sort of taking this unit from behind. Well, the chances aren't great, but we gotta do something this turn, so... Yeah, I mean, you do what you can, I guess. Alright, so this unit's focused on my machine gunner. Now there's a really easy solution to that, and that's just hop up on the building, move back, and then laugh at it for not having sufficient range. So yeah, we're going to be firing at it from a really long range, but by the end of the turn it's going to be moving into an optimal range for us. And just so the lance doesn't feel left out, we will continue to lob missile. You know what? Let's try and get it a little more productive. Let's we'll get it to target. So I guess the playmaker at the start is the Sleipnir. So Looks like the marksman successfully dodged the attacks. Alright, so this is a problem actually, because I don't know if the melee attack's going to work now. More importantly, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the Sleipnir can outrun missiles. I don't think it can. So if the melee strike works, I'm going to be super happy. Yeah, no surprises there. I'm actually a little worried that I might trip over the mech body. Those missiles are really nerve-wracking. Oh yeah, there's no way. It's almost certainly going to walk right over it and crash. The one hope I have is if the melee attack triggers early, but... Well, we bumped, but we're not... Okay, cool. So it doesn't count as a crash. Interesting. I don't see this doing damage. Looks like that got taken out by the machine gun. Okay, well, he's done. Oh, wow! No replay for us. We took everyone out in that one turn. Cool. That was fun. And looks like the Sleipnir did, in fact, successfully outrun the missiles. This is, again, just to... obviously, this game does not really require a lot of elaboration on its beautiful visuals. But just little details, like the fact that you can see... Like, you know where the missiles went, right? You can see the path because of the smoke. You know... I kind of can remember each move that caused this damage. I can remember all of the circumstances under which these, all the different bits of battlefield damage happened. And I mean, again, it's worth remembering. This is like an independent game. Like this is a not. It's not small in the sense of it's not like two people working in a garage small, but this is not Electronic Arts who's making it. This is, in fact, I believe the original team that was making this was called Tetragon Works, and I think they were acquired by Brace Yourself Games. But the way that Brace Yourself seems to work is that if you've got a particular set of skills that are helpful for a given game, they will try and move sort of the talent between projects where they're needed the most. So, for instance, I think Adelaide is credited with some particular improvements on Industries of Titan at a time when it didn't necessarily... I mean, I don't mean to single out Adelaide. I just seem to remember some comments along those lines. But yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say here is that, yes, Brace Yourself Games, I mean, they're the indie Katamari. They are, they are growing. But they're not... they're not a large developer. I suspect if you were to look at this game, you would assume that this is made by a much larger team than it actually is. And I think, I mean, I sometimes wonder when it comes to, I don't know if people have been particularly impatient about the replay or the 1.0 release for Steam or anything like that. But I sometimes wonder if there might be a certain insistence on certain features because this game looks so good that there might be an assumption that there's just simply more resources available for the game than there actually is. For me, for the most part, I just tend to see positive things about the game. But I'm almost wondering if it's in some ways a victim of its own success at times, simply because... it's able, it just looks so good, and it looks like something that is made by either a very large team or a very well-financed organization. It's slightly amazing to me, to be honest, that this game sort of does what it does. But I mean, that's the delight of playing different indie games, right? Some of them tell unique and interesting stories. Some of them have a really distinctive visual style that don't, well, sorry, all of them usually tell very good story. Like, I think Phantom Brigade tells an interesting story. I remember the final battle, I remember being very memorable, because of sort of how I felt. It definitely felt like a very big, momentous, fight. But I suppose where I'm going with a lot of this is, it's to me at least, it's kind of interesting to see I'm trying to say this without like repeating myself. Like, some indies will lean into their niche in the sense of it's got a very distinctive art style, which may not necessarily be for everyone, but of course, like to a certain extent, as far as independents are concerned, you don't need to appeal to the world. Oh, Tiberiosity, thank you very much for the raid. I am actually quite literally about to wrap up. And I do actually need to go because I'm already half an hour over and it's past midnight. I do actually have something that I need to get done. So thank you very much for the raid, and I apologize for not treating your viewers to more of a visual feast. Oh, it's Phantom Brigade. I don't know if you know, but Phantom Brigade just added a replay option, so you can replay your turn, and it's great. So I will maybe stress, like, for those of you that haven't seen Phantom Brigade, I'll try and see if there's somebody that I can host tonight who's playing it. But it definitely it's a game that. Like, just visually, I was kind of talking about the fact that, like, one of the things that I think makes Brace Yourself games really interesting is that they have incredibly distinctive games. Like, I think if you look at Crypt of the Necrodancer, or if you look at Industries of Titan, or even Phantom Brigade, right? Like, these definitely have a mark. Hello, Carlo. How you doing? Hi and by yourself. But what I think is so interesting about this one is that you can look at Phantom Brigade and, like, just like a turn of someone playing this, provided that enough sort of happens inside of it. I mean, again, like, everybody from Tiberiosity's raid is like seeing, it's like, well, clearly there were missiles firing at this guy and he's sort of running away, and something crazy happened here because, like, there's a weapon out and this thing's blown up and this guy's, like, taking a blade to a tank and this building got blown up, and okay, this guy's on a roof firing a machine gun. Okay, well, there's the smoldering wreck of a tank, and okay, apparently there's a missile sort of firing through here. Like, what did I miss? Needless to say, like, this is a very, very, very good looking game. Really talented team behind it, clearly. So it is, I think one of the things that's so interesting here is just that Phantom Brigade in particular, although I think this is also true of Industries of Titan, seems to have it seems to have, like, a mass appeal. I suspect probably in the grand scheme of things there will be more people in the world who have not heard of Phantom Brigade than have, but, like, that's true for everything, right? But yeah, what's really interesting to me here is that it just seems to have found this really tight focus on a set of things that it can do very well. And as a result, it is a game that looks great, plays great, and it sort of feels like something that has been made with either a lot more time or expense or people, or however you want to put it. And again, that's not to suggest, like, I don't mean to suggest that, like, the Phantom Brigade team is tiny or anything like that. But again, I just think kind of it sort of feels like every last bit of, like, effort and talent is sort of being wrung out of the people making this game. Because, I mean, again, like, I'm assuming that if you were to see this game in isolation, you would assume that this probably has, like, a large publisher behind it. where I think, in fact, it is an independent game developed and published by Brace Yourself. So, and maybe just a quick reminder, I still need to get my scrap and all of that. They are beta testing the Steam version, so I will maybe I'll bring up that link. So for those of you who've been waiting for the Steam version, or if you just want to help them test it out, your time has come. I will try and explain what's going on. So the more mechs, more enemies really that you destroy. Oh, that's interesting. So actually there's a small incentive to destroy turrets because it does add up to your total. So the more stuff you destroy, the more you can get for your scrap budget. But even with a large scrap budget, it's clear that you can't take everything. So probably don't need the second SMG. Let's, this one will get me 45, this will get me 40. You know what? All right then. That's that. But yeah, so you do have a limited scrap budget that you can throw in now. Okay, looks like I do control this this camp. So for those of you who are new to Phantom Brigade, we were playing the tactical game. It's a little bit like XCOM, right? Where XCOM, when you think about the game, you usually think about the tactical battles, but it is not the only thing in the game. There is a strategic layer as well. So the way that this game works now is that when you start attacking enemy installments, you're essentially playing sort of an insurgency against an occupying force. The tutorial is basically the beginning of the battle, or the beginning of the war, the occupation. And once you bring up a certain level of what do they call it? Escalation, I think. Then you can sort of take the province back. The home army is motivated and sort of ready to take up arms against the occupying force. And then what your role is to assist them as the fights go up. So currently, Fearland is a contested province. We've got 100 in terms of our strength, the Home Guard. The strength of the Home Guard, remnants of the conventional defense forces engaging the enemy all over the contested province. Supporting the Home Guard with strikes against key objectives and helping them at battle sites will lead us to victory. Letting this value fall to 0 will trigger a retreat, letting the enemy hold the province. And then, of course, enemy strength, it's currently at 63. The strength of the invasion forces in this contested province. Strike key objectives to make this value drop. When the value reaches 0, the enemy will retreat and the province will be liberated. So every once in a while, these battle sites will pop up. And in this particular case here, if we want to sort of help turn the tide of the battle, which of course is the point of sort of being the Phantom Brigade, you show up at the last minute and do a very dramatic fight to sort of save the day. If we were to engage in this battle, we'll see the enemy strength reduce. I don't know if it's guaranteed to be lost. If this was explained in an earlier patch, and I don't remember offhand how it works. But basically, the it's a good idea to take these battle sites because in the end it's going to help reduce the enemy anyway. And in fact, if you've taken all the locations, I believe it's the only way that you can reduce the enemy strength in the province. So again, a little bit like XCOM, or you could even make the comparison with Total War, right? Like, clearly the strategic map is not necessarily driving the game. Like, chances are you get Total War or XCOM because you actually want to take the field and order the soldiers around as opposed to have the broader strategic considerations. But of course, in those games, the strategic map is going to create the conditions under which you are fighting. And so if you manage the strategic layer well, you're going to have an advantage on the battlefield. And if you manage the strategic layer poorly, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you can't quite manage what's going on. In any case, I did promise that I was going to wrap up. So let's go in. That's June 23rd. So I'll probably... So I do want to try and finish the Industries of Titan playthrough before the new patch. What I'll probably wind up doing is I'll have Phantom Brigade on the Wednesdays, and then if I can slide in another Industries of Titan stream, that'll just be a nice extra. And again, it's worth remembering that because they are going to be working on the beta and the feedback coming from that, there's not going to be an update for July, so I suppose in the worst case scenario, I just spend a little extra time with Titan in July. I won't abandon Phantom Brigade because again, this is an awesome looking game. It knows it's awesome looking, so you know if you stay idle on the menu long enough, it just shows you all of these awesome vignettes. But yeah, you know, like I do very much like this game. So it's just usually been that I play the one that gets the most recent update. So. We'll see how it goes. Let me try and see if I can find somebody to raid. My god, I forgot how many tabs I had open. Also, sorry, I feel like I just kind of lost a lot of energy, but working through. Oh, you know what? Oh, thank you, Decree. I keep threatening to host this guy, and then I wind up hosting like Outworld and stuff like that. So I don't know how much longer he's going to be online, but Intelligame, also known as Josh, is currently playing. Oh, sorry, hang on. I did say I was going to check Phantom Brigade first, so sorry. Okay, it appears that I am the only Phantom Brigade streamer. That is a shame. Is anybody doing Industries of Titan? It does say here it's a design review. How long have they been broadcasting? I don't know, I do kind of want to host Intelligame. Tough call. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. This other streamer does seem interesting. It's Aiden Price. I don't know who they are, but here's their background. So it says, I'm Aiden, AAA game designer with 16 years of game dev experience. Currently designer at Offworld Industries, which I feel... I got an email from them recently. I think they might do Squad, if memory serves. In any case, previous Minecraft Legends, Gears Tactics, Homeworld, Magic the Gathering, Brink, Battlefield, and more specialize in procedural generation and strategy games. So they may actually be a Vancouver-based developer as well, because I know Homeworld... Actually, I don't know where Minecraft Legends was. Anyways, a couple of those do seem to be Vancouver-based. So that might be an interesting one to look at. But I keep missing the opportunity to... So it says here it's a design review. But I do know Intelligame is doing No Man's Sky, and I keep threatening to host him, and then I keep having other stuff come up. So I think in this case, I feel like I owe Intelligame the raid. I will draw your attention to that other broadcaster if you really want to see a Brace Yourself. I might even check out this other stream too, just because I'm interested in Industries of Titan. But I feel like Intelligame's a really good choice, and he's a very friendly broadcaster. I found him through Victoria Tran, the community manager or community lead or whatever the proper term is for Innersloth, formerly of Kitfox Games. And I don't know, there's only so many times I can see Josh streaming No Man's Sky and not host him, so I hope you have a good time. I will try and stream... Okay, I will definitely stream Friday. If I can, I'm going to try and get some extra days in. We'll see how that turns out. Thank you all for watching and putting up with my extended goodbyes. And take care of each other. See ya. Bye.